for Jonathan Taylor. There he goes again. 50, 40, down the far sideline. He might do it again. 10, 5, touchdown. I-N-D-Y.
The Eastern Conference Championship has been captured by the Indiana Pacers.
Alex Pillow wins the 109th Indianapolis 500.
This is the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, and Jeff.
Hot to go. That'll probably be the jam of the year on the old Spotify for the Bowen family, and that is probably a good way to describe this Thursday in Westfield. It will be sticky. It will be muggy. I will sweat. And James Boyd, I know he's not rocking it right now, but are we both going bucket hats today?
Yes, the bucket hat doesn't really work with the headset. I see you kind of made it work, but yeah, you know me, I'm bucket hat to the end when it comes to training camp.
You are indeed. I know I look like a Kirby Smart grad assistant, I feel like today, and my wardrobe out here at Colts Camp. It's day 2. Another, I think, is it just an hour today? Are we 11 o'clock again today? Or
I believe so.
11:15? I know at some point we get to 11:15, but I believe just an hour practice here on day 2, and we will recap what we saw yesterday in the first practice of training camp. I was surprised by a couple things and looking forward to chatting more about that here. So good Thursday morning to you. Thank you for spending it with us. Phelan, on-site engineer. Appreciate your help in getting us up and running on this Thursday morning. I'm Kevin Bowen, James Boyd. Again, we are out here all week long, Monday and Tuesday as well. And back in studio, it is Mark Dykton. Mark?
What's up, boys? How you doing?
We're good.
James,
Living a dream.
I'm sorry, James. How many bucket hats have you autographed so far? Are we at 0 still? We need to up that number.
None. I've given out a few high fives. That's about it. I don't think anybody wants my autograph. That would just ruin your product.
No. If you're going out to camp, get James Boyd's autograph on your bucket hat and send out a picture. I need to see that before we break camp at the end of August.
Oh, Lord. This is like...
Is this a thing? You signing bucket hats?
No, it's not a thing. Mark is trying to make it a thing.
Got it. All right.
He's a little mischievous.
Yeah.
Gritty
James
says I look like Gilligan. Do I look like Gilligan right now?
A little bit. That's okay, though.
I mean, that's right over James Boyd's head. But
James signing bucket hats and Kevin signing Speedos. That's what I want at training camp.
Boy, I don't think we'd be doing the same duo in the morning show. I think James would be riding solo here until Jeff got back from France. A day like today, James Boyd, is why you have morning practices in the NFL. It is going to be hot. I was looking at the temps when we got here. When practice ends at 11 o'clock today, I saw the heat index will feel like 95. If this were Saturday, remember, Saturday is the 4 o'clock practice. Mm-hmm. The start of that practice would be 92, feeling like 103. So this is, again, why NFL teams, I think, have shifted over the years and opted for more of these morning practices. And really, when you look at the Colts schedule, they're at Tennessee early in the season. That could be a hot one. But, I don't think they have too many of what they're even going to experience today, hell, even at 10 a.m.
Yeah, it's going to be a sweaty day. And honestly, perhaps this is a day where you get to see whose mental fortitude is on a different level and how they are mentally. But I would imagine this is one of those days where you definitely want to try to be very cognizant of how much you're hydrated. You don't want guys cramping up and us trying to report, so-and-so went down. What is it? And it's turned out to be a cramp. So lots of water should be on tap today.
Great bill of health for the Colts to start this camp. We touched on that yesterday. It didn't look like anyone really got banged up. Alec Pierce maybe left for just a brief second but came back in practice yesterday. So we'll continue to monitor that. When does Zaire Franklin get out there for practice? That will be a storyline. And I thought the surprise yesterday for me, James, was just the amount of 11-on-11 work that Anthony Richardson got. He actually outsnapped Daniel Jones in the starting portion of those 11-on-11 periods. I did not expect that going in. And Shane Steichen explained afterwards, I think it makes total sense. They will keep the 11-on-11 reps even here for these two. When you hear the scaled-back volume for Richardson, they'll do that earlier in practice. So, for those that have not been out to practice, typically the first, 20 to 30 minutes, stretching in individual periods. If you watched that yesterday and truly charted it out, that was when Anthony Richardson dialed it back.
Yeah.
Actually, Riley Leonard and Jason Bean threw a good amount of balls in those practice periods. But when they got to the team work, they want Richardson as full throttle there as he can be, and he definitely was that yesterday. So, again, we'll get into day one, and, that's all we have to go off of. But I thought that stood out to me, that Anthony Richardson took actually more than Daniel Jones. Again, that'll flip-flop here moving forward. But the scaled-back volume, not going to occur in team drills, and I think that makes total sense.
It definitely does, and I guess it's encouraging for Anthony as well, because it lets you know he's further along than maybe others might have thought, and obviously where he was in the spring, we had to be shut down. So I think that's a big development for this quarterback competition. I did have a chance to follow up with Shane and be like, hey, does him missing that time in the spring change anything, or does he have ground to make up in this quarterback competition? And Shane told me it was a good question and didn't really answer it. So that was, typical Shane. He's in, mid-season form already, but I would have to think that it has to factor in at least a little bit. But it sounds like, in accordance with Chris Ballard as well, they want to really use this time to try to make this an even quarterback competition. And I wouldn't imagine if Daniel Jones has a leg up, which I believe he did coming into camp, it's a very big one. And so we will see how it kind of unfolds. Like you said, Kevin, they're going to flip-flop. They're going to make sure that things are even. Kevin Bowen, I almost said Kevin Pritchard, but Kevin Bowen, not Kevin Bowen, I'm sorry, Shane Steichen, all over the place this morning. But Shane Steichen said this is an opportunity for these guys to, have a chance to, get the third down work, get the, red zone drill work, which is why they won't flip-flop them like day to day. It'll be throughout the day when we see all those things happen.
I thought the corners stood out yesterday. We can get a little bit more into those individuals as well. And also, thank you to Phelan, on-site engineer. I walked up here to our tent at Grand Park. Please come by, say hi. We're up here on the northwest side of the complex. Enjoyed when Colt City opened up around 9 a.m. yesterday, interacting with some fans. But Phelan said, hey, Phelan, I think, admitting not maybe the biggest Colts fan, he goes, so the Colts don't have a quarterback. That was the first thing that Phelan said to me when I walked up to the tent.
Well, honestly, that's the conversation I have with you every day, and we're here.
I said, you know what, Phelan? Yeah, when you're having a quarterback competition, it's probably an indicator that that position is not maybe a strength on the roster. And again, yesterday, largely, James, I thought it is day one. I think everything that we say for the next 3 hours should be met with that caveat.
No. Day one is set in stone. Everything we saw is the future.
If this was the 2009 Colts and they look like that yesterday from a passing offense standpoint, you would say, let's chalk it up to day one rust. They might have partied too hard in the offseason. The fact that it's the 2025 Indianapolis Colts and their passing offense stinks largely and has stunk for the last few years, it is further like, wait, is this going to be a continued poor unit, or do we just chalk it up to day one? Because they had a lot of drops.
I'm going to say I'm hesitant to say it's just day one or it's just rust. That's what Shane Steichen was kind of
And I'm not just talking about Richardson and Jones throwing the football.
No.
There were drops galore yesterday. And 50-50 balls went to the defense every time.
Yeah, and I will say the defense, we can get into that, but some of those 50-50 balls, in my opinion, probably weren't 50-50 balls depending on who you were throwing to in that area. Javarius Ward, rings a bell. Obviously, he had a really good day yesterday. We'll get into that. But as far as the offense goes, I thought that, Michael Pittman Jr. had a drop. I want to say Ashton Doolin had a drop as well. John Taylor had a drop. And, there was one over the middle. Tyler Warren got his hands on, and I believe that was more like a pass breakup. Where the linebacker,
Joe Bocci with a great play there.
Yeah, made a great play over the middle and just broke it up. But other than that, there were too many drops. And honestly, that was a theme last year as well that compounded Anthony Richardson's struggles at quarterback and compounded even some of the throws that Joe Flacco had when he was in there under center. So that was a bit concerning, but day one, I'm not going to overreact to it. But, yeah, to your point, Kevin, if this was, 2009, Peyton Manning would have cussed everybody out. Everybody.
The Hawkins Fever playing tonight against the Las Vegas Aces here. The Stranger Things jersey will be alive and well inside of Gamebridge Fieldhouse. I love the look. James Boyd, the Fever could use a win.
They could definitely use a win. And this is against the team that is right there with them in the standings. I want to say the Fever might be like a game ahead of the Aces at the moment. But the biggest thing for me going into it is obviously how much can you contain Asia Wilson. And going back to when they did play them, they crushed them the last time they played. Asia Wilson had a huge game, but the rest of their team, the Aces, had no offense outside of her. So is this an opportunity for you again to sort of contain Asia Wilson? By contain, I mean just force her to try to beat you one-on-one. She's that good. I mean, but if she scores 30, nobody else really gets off. You have a good chance of winning. So it is a big matchup, I believe. You know, with actually I just checked the standings. The Aces are now one game ahead of the Fever. So the Aces are in that 6th spot.
They've won 3 in a row, the Aces.
Yeah, and the Fever falls to that 7th spot. And again, when you have the best player in the game, you always have a chance, I think. But again, how much can you force the other guys or other women to beat you?
Live here in Westfield, it's day 2 of Colts training camp. A morning practice today, once again tomorrow. Again, Saturday they'll go afternoon. I think another reason why Richardson probably took more of those 11-on-11 reps yesterday, James, at some point here in this 4 straight practice cadence to start camp, I think there is some expectation that volume will dial back. And, you know, again, if any of that happens in the 11-on-11 period, maybe you wait till whatever, the 3rd straight day or the 4th straight day, something like that. So just a thing to keep an eye on. We'll get more into the individual days for Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones. I don't think the numbers for each of them tell the full story. But again, I was pretty impressed by a variety of corners, some more than others, but we'll explain that here upcoming on the show. A good Thursday morning to you. Thank you for tuning in to the Fan Morning Show live here in Westfield, 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
105 and 107.5 The Fan.
Day 2, Colts training camp. We are here in Westfield. 10 a.m. again, the start time for a morning practice. It will be a steamy one, and boy, thank the Lord they're not practicing this afternoon. James, we'll get more into day 1 reaction here on the other side, but non-quarterback, the biggest highlight of yesterday was what?
Justin Wally starting at outside corner, and I believe he took, if not all, the majority or most of the starting cornerback snaps opposite of Travarius Ward, and obviously Kenny Moore was in the slot. So those 3 started at cornerback, and Justin Wally continues to impress. He's received praise from Shane Steichen, Chris Ballard, Lou Anarumo earlier this spring. So this is somebody who's earned a lot of praise from people who usually don't give it very willingly.
Shane Steichen talks about him like I talk about Tiger Woods.
Ah, yeah. I don't know. You might have him beat with Tiger, though.
I don't know.
The Tiger love is real.
Yeah, it is real.
He's got to walk in with Justin Wally hat one of these days, and then we'll know.
Yeah, it is real. I'd say the highlight for me was the one-handed interception by one Kenny Moore. Hell of a play by him. Got the feet down before going out of bounds.
Yeah.
I was in a 7-on-7 rep against Daniel Jones, but we'll break down much more of what happened yesterday coming up here in a few minutes. All right, tonight inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse, the Fever are back home. They will welcome the Las Vegas Aces. That is Asia Wilson. That is Jackie Young. So a little local flavor with her. Is Jackie Young still the all-time leading scorer in the state?
I believe
Girl
so,
or boy?
for boys and girls. Scored over 3,000 points at, what was it, Princeton?
Princeton, the pride of Princeton there before, of
Imagine
course,
being able to tell people
playing
you went to
Notre Dame.
Princeton and you're not lying.
She is not. Slight favorite. I think the Aces are actually over the Fever. We know Caitlin Clark is out. The Stranger Things jerseys will be on the Fever tonight. At this point, I don't expect Clark to play till August.
I wouldn't, and I would have sat her down. They need to sit her down and try to reevaluate some things. And for what I understand, I don't even know if she's really around the team at this point, still getting evaluated by doctors and trying to figure out a plan. So that is certainly something to keep an eye on going forward. But I will say, I do like the Stranger Things jerseys.
Oh, I think they're great.
They're
looking.
awesome.
Yeah.
But also, how long is Stranger Things going? I'm like, the people in this show are grown now. Like Millie Bobby Brown?
Yeah, 11 is
11 is like 21.
11 isn't looking like 11 anymore.
No, so I just don't understand, like, what I haven't seen the show in years, but I'm like, what else is there to do or conquer or in the upside down? I don't get it.
Well, they're going to draw you in, and thanks to the Fever for helping
That
out
is true.
in that area. 7 o'clock tonight, we'll have it right here on our airwaves. I believe that's a WTHR Amazon Prime game with the Aces. Yesterday in Major League Baseball, as soon as Mark Dykton played the audio yesterday, I knew that we would get the last laugh, and we certainly did. That would be the Reds getting the win yesterday. It was a shutout. And, of course, the Cubs, the pathetic Cubs losing to the Royals yesterday. What a glorious
Dang, Mark,
day
you gonna
for
let
the
him talk
Reds.
like that to
I
you?
mean, you're welcome. I wanted to give good vibes to your team. I would hope you would reciprocate. But, okay, Kevin, if that's how we're playing it today, that's good to know. That's good to know.
Indianapolis Indians 9-6 winners over the Toledo Mud Hens. Do the Indians have a rival? Is it the Louisville Bats? I feel like the Toledo Mud Hens should be one of their rivals.
Based off name alone, I'll go with Mud Hens.
You like that?
Yeah.
Mark, who are the Mud Hens the affiliate of? Detroit? Cleveland?
I believe that's correct. I think the Detroit Tigers.
Laguna Seca for IndyCar coming up this weekend. It has been a crazy month of July for IndyCar.
Can you guys hear me, by the way? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, they are
they
the AAA affiliate of the Detroit Tigers.
Thank you for that. So Laguna Seca out west. Speaking of out west, Barry Odom, Purdue's portion of Big Ten Media Day will be today. So we'll see if Barry Odom decides to walk a Kurt Signetti plank or if he decides to be a little bit more reserved in that area. But Big Ten Media Day is continuing out there in Las Vegas. All right, coming up on the other side, what drew quite the cheer yesterday at Colts Camp? I think it came off of maybe our poll that we had yesterday late in the show. Quite the overwhelming response in that poll, turning a bit. And I think if you were out here at Grand Park, you certainly heard favoritism towards one quarterback versus the other. Much more on our Day 1 recap of Colts training camp. Kevin Bowen and James Boyd in Westfield. Mark Dykton back in studio. This is the Fan Morning Show on a hot Thursday in Central Indiana.
Mark Dykton, pull it out.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Colts training camp, that is where we are and where we have been here for the last couple of shows. We'll be here through Tuesday. I believe that's our final morning practice of camp. This camp schedule in general gets a little choppier once we get into next week, and then they'll go to Baltimore the first week of August for a joint session, and a lot of afternoon and even some evening and night practices once we hit the month of August. James Boyd, late in the show yesterday, we had a very simple poll that early on, some of the voting results surprised me a bit. But, you know, like every great election, counting votes seems to be something that we should probably keep an eye on.
Yeah.
And so with Mark's poll yesterday, it was who do Colts fans want to see as the starting quarterback in 2025? James, we didn't do a poll here at Grand Park, but when it was time for Anthony Richardson to slide into that starting offense, I was struck by the audible cheer from the crowd on more than one occasion.
Yes, I heard a lot of.
They did not hold back.
I heard a lot of "Let's go AR," "AR, you got this," "We believe in you still." Those things of that nature. So,
whereas when Daniel Jones took the starting reps, it was like when I walked into a bar in college.
Yeah, it was just a regular hustle and bustle when Daniel Jones was out there, and I love Mike Chappell, the dean, because he will ask certain questions that perhaps I would not. And he had a chance to ask Daniel Jones about the cheers. And he's like, what do you do when you hear that? Like, what are you supposed to say as the other quarterback? I agree. And he's just like, well, the fans are out here. I support the fans. He's very media trained from his New York days. You can tell he's a veteran in that regard. But it was funny to kind of hear his reaction. But I did think that Anthony Richardson, his response was very mature.
Yeah, let's play that audio, Mark, if you don't mind. This was Anthony, and both players admitted to hearing the cheers. Again, for those that have not been out here at Grand Park, the stands are very close to the field. I thought Anthony's answer was a good one. This was Anthony Richardson yesterday on the crowd here at Grand Park showing him some support.
It's exciting, you know, because I know this city loves and supports me. You know, I just got to do my part, you know, make sure I can do everything in my power to be the quarterback that they want me to be and need me to be. You know, so it definitely feels good, but you know, I can't let it get to my head. You know, I still got a lot of work to do, and I still got to get that job. So, you know, I definitely appreciate it, but work not done.
Yeah, I think if you're Shane Steichen, that's what you want to hear.
Absolutely. What is it, the Mamba mentality? The work's not done? Why are you not smiling? The work's not done. And I think a lot of it has to do with what Anthony shows us throughout this training camp. And to his point about the work not being done, it's far from done. You got to prove you can stay healthy. You got to prove you're a much more accurate passer. Like yesterday, there were some times where he was hesitant, Kevin, and late on some throws, and perhaps some of that can be chalked up to rust or not having those team periods and maybe not having the ramp-up time that he normally would going into training camp. However, those two things, the accuracy, the lack of anticipation, those things have been themes throughout his career so far. And so, you know, he's talked about making all his progress in intermediate throws and working on his footwork and accuracy. We have to see that quicker and sooner rather than later.
That poll that we did yesterday ended up a little less than 2,000 votes. And who do you want to be the Colts starting quarterback in 2025? Anthony Richardson with 82.5%.
Boom! I told you it would be like that.
Yeah, you guys were.
Which
both
I mean, I'm not taking a ton of credit for that.
That
was
no,
what
and
most
again,
teams will want, right? They want the young guy they drafted.
A reason for the poll was, you know, we had some people in the YouTube chat mention, you know, I'm ready to see Daniel Jones, and you know, early on that poll was much more of a 50-50 split, and honestly, there was a little bit of a lead for Jones earlier. And you probably get this, but like, there are people on both sides of that. I think there are some that are like, no, Richardson deserves one more shot, healthy offseason,
yep,
et cetera, et cetera. And then some just say, Anthony Richardson maybe gives us the best chance at tanking, which, you know, is probably not the most optimistic way to look at it. But nonetheless, I can hear you out on that. You know, one thing I was struck by before we get into the days of Richardson and Jones, I'm standing there at the podium yesterday, Richardson speaking with the media, and I'm looking at him, and I don't know if this is maybe the most politically correct thing to do, but I'm looking at him like, that dude looks slimmer to me. Do you ever do that with players? Or the reverse? Like, I felt that way about Isaiah Jackson in Vegas. They showed him on TV. I'm like, that man looks bigger than I remember.
Yeah,
are we allowed to do that?
Very noticeable. I think with athletes, it's kind of just a given. anytime your weight fluctuates, we're going to notice it.
Well, I would say let's just stop there, because if you said that to some females, it probably wouldn't be the best thing in the world.
Well, yeah, very good point. Use a term like big man in basketball. That does not fly on the other
big
side.
Big woman? Are you allowed to say that?
No, I don't.
You can't say that?
Nope. I always use post player.
Post player. Got it. Okay.
Center.
Noted. I'm going to jot that down.
Forward.
Got it.
Post player.
Yeah, back to the basket player. Okay, got it.
But when you look at the way Anthony looks, he did say he slimmed down. Now, I believe he played at about 250 last year, 255, something in that range, and dropped to 240, as he said yesterday. He said he feels slimmer, like his college days. And
not by choice, right? Or it wasn't
what he
like
said. He said it wasn't
trying to lose that weight.
But it was kind of – but also he kind of talked out of both sides of his mouth, because he was saying, well, I feel a little leaner, I feel a little slimmer, I could probably move a little better. And so I'm like, well, if it wasn't intentional, then is it still beneficial? Like, you have to be – I mean, it's not like you came into camp and you're like, oh, wait a second, I'm lower than I used to be. Like, it as you're tracking it, right? Like, I would think that that's something you still have to kind of monitor a little bit. But he dropped weight, and I think he kind of alluded to the fact that he wants to be able to, like, move better. And I think it might have been you or someone else. We don't have to remind him. The conditioning was a problem last year. I mean, one of your biggest, most viral moments was you tapping out of a game because you were tired. Yeah. And so does dropping that weight help you when it comes to having the dual threat responsibilities of running and throwing? Yeah,
he didn't really want to go there, but I can distinctly remember, and I'm not just talking about the tap out. I think there were some moments late in games, which, again, he might have been at his best late in games, where he's, taking knees and huddles and, he's kind of, hands on the knees, those sorts of things. So I did think that was interesting. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that would just naturally like to lose 10 to 15 pounds and not really think twice about it. Let's get into the day of the two.
Wait a second. In our YouTube chat, we have Hoosier97. He says, how do they look so big when, Kevin, you sit next to a man as large as James Boyd every day? Yes, I agree. You see this? I worked hard for this. That's natural physique.
That's a lot of flexing of the muscles there.
No, not muscles, bones, baby.
They look like Kevin McAllister flexing in the mirror of Home Alone as his family's halfway across the world here. That's the laugh of James Boyd. I'm Kevin Bowen. We're live here in Westfield. Mark Dykton back in studio again, 10 a.m. Start time to practice. Latu scheduled to join us tomorrow on the show, so looking forward to a man that looks like he's going to be a full-time starter here in year two based off the early returns of where the Colts are at from a starting lineup standpoint. All right, Jones and Richardson on the day. Numerically, and again, these are very unofficial numbers. Jones 6 of 8. I don't know, one of those completions, or 6 of 7. One of those completions, he caught his own pass. So I think when you have a pass that goes for -7 yards, I don't know if I necessarily count that as a completion, but nonetheless, that was his day. Anthony Richardson, 4 of 10, 4 of 11, right around there. I think there's some context with that. James Boyd, your thoughts on the two quarterbacks from yesterday?
I thought that Anthony definitely did not look very crisp throwing the ball. I think it was 4 of 11, if I'm not mistaken, Kevin. And the few of his throws were just late. Now, I will say he had some drops in there. He had about 3 drops, I want to say, from Doolin, Michael Pittman, and the third one might have been Jonathan Taylor, so they didn't help him out much.
That was a bad drop by Taylor.
Yeah, and, that was right out of the backfield, ball right in your hands, and you just dropped it. So, and that's one thing that he has to get better at, too, and I know at this point in his career you're probably asking how much better can he get, but that has always kind of been a little bit of weakness for Jonathan Taylor, is not having the playmaking hands out of the backfield. But getting back to the quarterbacks, I thought Anthony just looked off kilter yesterday. A few good throws, but a lot more, in my opinion, late and kind of erratic throws, not only just in the team periods, but a few of them throughout the warm-ups and individual periods as well. And then for Daniel Jones, I didn't think he had a great day either. I mean, he did get picked off by, Kenny Moore II, who made a great play on the ball, but it was late to the outside in 7-on-7. And then in 11-on-11, there was a lot of dinking and dunking and not a lot of pushing the ball down the field outside of, I will say, that was a beautiful pass to Anthony Gould down the sideline. But other than that, Kevin, I didn't think either quarterback did much to tell me, oh my gosh, first day out, they seized the job, or they took this sizable lead, or man, Shane Steichen has to go back and watch this and think about this. I think he has to go back and watch and be like, okay, this might have been bad. Is this less than bad? Is this, it really wasn't that great for either quarterback to me.
Yeah, the numbers don't tell the full story. And, again, every time we talk about training camp practices, particularly on July 24th, we are evaluating 1 hour of day one work. So, everything that I'm about to say, please remind yourself of that caveat. I thought Daniel Jones had some major struggles in the 7-on-7 period, which is where he is supposed to be better.
Yeah.
Kenny Moore had that pick of him, awful decision near the sideline there that, Kenny made a nice play, but still a ball that never should have been thrown. Almost had another pick over the middle. Cameron Grown maybe, Austin Najaki. I forget which linebacker knocked it down, but one of them did.
Yep.
Easily could have been picked there. And there's part of me that when we say those 11-on-11 numbers, it might be worth also pointing out what happens when they're just with the starting units. And again, yesterday, Richardson actually got more starting reps than Jones. The thought is that'll flip-flop, and they'll try to get that as even as possible throughout this competition. But if you look at with the starters, Richardson actually had the better day, also factoring in 3 drops. So, again, I think there's plenty of context that's necessary around this. Even if you just look at Anthony Richardson, what would you say, 4 of 11?
Yeah.
With 3 drops. So if you want to take out the 3 drops, whatever, 4 of 8. I know 50% is not, like, what you're going to want to live with, but, like, for day one of a guy that, hasn't practiced in 2 months.
But if you flip it and say, okay, he was 7 of 11.
Sure, if those 3 go as completions, yeah.
So there's always, you
right,
can make numbers do a lot of things.
Yeah, but I just think there was some context. I thought overall, though, the passing offense operation struggled. And, again, it goes back to the opening segment of if this was a good passing offense in years past, you would easily say, oh, it's day one rust, who cares? But the Colts passing offense has been anything but good lately. So we'll see how that continues to evolve here moving forward. I did think the thing that stood out to me the most was those corners were active. And Travarius Ward is probably the first name I'll go with. I know you mentioned Justin Wally earlier. And, yes, the rookie out of Minnesota continues to be one that not only does the staff talk highly of, but the actions match that. Right now he is a starter in that nickel personnel grouping. But to me, Travarius Ward was he had 2 plays. One, he stuck with Alec Pierce down the field in some coverage early on. That is not a given for how corners typically, defend a guy like Alec Pierce down the field, because I think Ward is known as more of a physical corner, not necessarily this guy that's, 5'10",
got the long
running,
speed and all that.
running a 4.3 40.
Yeah.
And then he made a great play on Michael Pittman Jr. It was a slant to Pittman. It's a play that I think we've seen Pittman frequently kind of just use his body to box out an opposing corner, and Ward timed it beautifully, went through Pittman Jr. for the pass breakup. So again, it is day one, but I thought the high-paid corner, number 7, for those that have not been out at Colts practice or not seen the New Jersey numbers, I thought a nice day from him.
Absolutely, and I loved his confidence afterwards. I believe he was asked by somebody, hey, what'd you think of going up against Michael Pittman Jr.? He likes to talk, and Travarius made it very clear to us. Travarius Mooney told us he wasn't talking to me. And I was like, oh. And then he continued. He was like, well, if I'm strapping him, he can't talk. And I'm like, dang. Like, we were just throwing a little softball out there on day one, brother. It's just a little.
He talks, but, man, he backed it up yesterday.
Yeah, and I've enjoyed hearing his perspective, not only on the stuff that he's kind of gone through, but just this desire. You can kind of hear it from him, the way he walks and talks, and obviously the way he plays. He's very much aligned with wanting to prove 2023 wasn't a fluke when I was a second-team All-Pro for the 49ers. Last year I went through some personal studies and had some injuries, and I wasn't myself, but I can get back to that level. He was telling us my All-Pro years aren't behind me, and I'll show you guys. I'll show myself. And he speaks with such conviction that you're like, man, should I believe him? And obviously it's a tall task to kind of put that on yourself as far as trying to become an All-Pro again. However, he is certainly a step up from what we've seen in that cornerback room.
Shane Steichen used the word sticky to describe the coverage that Ward had on that pass breakup, and that is something.
His arms are so long.
Yes, indeed. That is something the Colts have lacked in recent years. They have not had enough sticky coverage, particularly from the outside corners. And I think it's twofold, James. Part of that is scheme, and part of that is your personnel. And to me, that was a great anticipatory play by Ward. And instinctually, you've got to have that. And that's kind of been his M.O. He's been a great pass breakup guy. And I've said this before about the Colts defenses in recent years. They just don't get their hands on enough balls. They just don't disrupt timing enough. They don't, and you can disrupt timing with your pass rush defensively. and or you can disrupt it with coverage.
So let me throw this at you. If Travarius Ward is playing like he did yesterday, and obviously day one, all those things, but we've seen him do it on the biggest stages, so I'm pretty confident in saying he's going to be a very good player for this team as long as he stays healthy. If he's doing that, how does that help or maybe expand the playmaking opportunities for a guy like Kenny Moore II?
Yeah, I mean, I do think it can help you. You know, it would allow, you would think, Kenny to kind of thrive in that nickel role, which that's where he made his interception yesterday, him and Josh Downs in that, slot nickel role there. And again, can Ward do some of the following around? I'm trying to think of the taller or, bigger wideouts the Colts have on the schedule. Cortland Sutton, for example, Marvin Harrison Jr.
Nico Collins, I would say.
Nico Collins, DK Metcalf. Some of those wideouts, they're not Jalen Waddles or, Tyreek Hills of the world, but still, those guys, maybe that is the matchup that you can have. So I do think if you're going to point to a positive from day one, it was certainly that. And just in general, on the reverse of it, I don't think the Colts pass catchers, I thought last year they didn't help out their quarterbacks enough. Yes, the quarterbacks deserve some blame, certainly. But yesterday, to me, James, was such an example of, you had the blatant drops, but they also were probably 2 or 3 other 50-50 moments where the defense won every time.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of that Tyler Warren play over the middle. Thrown to Warren, Joe Bacci, the linebacker's right there. That's Warren. You got to box him out.
Yeah.
Like, you've got to make that play. That should be a 80-20, 70-30 type moment for the offense, and you weren't able to make that. There were a couple other instances of that throughout practice. So while Jones and Richardson at times definitely had some inaccuracy, I didn't think the Colts pass catchers did enough to help them out.
No, and there were games throughout last season where we were kind of looking like, man, I understand that Anthony's struggling, but you got to catch the ball. I think of, what was it, the Patriots game? They had a lot of drops in that one. So that final drive where they went down there and were able to win it. But it's like, how many times can you ask a guy like Kylen Granson? In that game, I remember he dropped a couple of passes down the field, and I'm like, man, A.D. Mitchell as well. So those are some areas that obviously they need to improve on, especially if you're looking at your pass-catching group as being one of your strengths on your team. We go into camp, I don't know where wide receiver / pass catchers rank as far as positions that I'm worried about. Because I've kind of gone into it like, well, you got dudes in the room, you have playmakers, but you have to be able to make those plays, obviously, when they matter the most.
What does physicality mean to Shane Steichen when he says it'll be a more physical training camp? We'll share that upcoming as well. And again, his
I got
words.
ideas. If he wants to come to me, we can talk about that after the break.
Oh, okay.
I got ideas.
All right. And his words on Justin Wally, they certainly continue to be public praise that really, I don't know if too many players have got that from Shane Steichen in the last couple of years, so we'll share that upcoming as well. If I just naturally sweat just standing out here today, is that doing the workout trick? Like, is that good for me?
I'm not sure.
Like, am I able to eat anything I want to all day as long as I'm able to,
honestly, if you've sweated it out already, we're going to lose probably 5 pounds today. Well, I can't afford to lose 5 pounds. I'd be anemic. But I think that.
Wait, I thought you were just flexing to the cameras and
no,
doing all that 10 minutes ago.
I need like the muscles from like the kids' costume. So if Max Bowen has anything over at the house, bring it in tomorrow and I'll try to see if I can squeeze into it.
By the way, I'm so proud of Max Bowen. He's potty training right now. And that man's going number 1. He's going number 2. It's a 95% hit rate on the toilet. I mean, I'm just so proud of that kid.
So you're saying you have a young Steph Curry in your hands. He's got good aim.
Mark, were your girl? I've always heard girls are easier to potty train than boys. Did you guys have potty training issues? Did you guys go full naked thing and live with the accidents?
I mean, it's progressed. Like we're obviously better. We have a higher hit rate than we had in the past. But our youngest Nora is getting potty trained. She's doing the whole naked thing and stuff too. But she's getting it done. She's at a 100% clip right now. So she's better than the other two. That's for sure. She's better than Dad, too. Dad has a low hit rate. My hit rate is struggling.
You're spraying everywhere. You're like Anthony Richardson out here.
I know,
Max Bowen's like Drew Brees against the Colts on that Monday night game a couple years ago.
Like
his efficiency right now is tremendous.
It's like a sprinkler in the lawn, just going everywhere.
Yeah, well,
do with that image what
need
you
some
will.
Sprinklers on these fields at Grand Park. Yeah, great vivid imagery that we're painting here on this Thursday morning for you. Again, we're live here at Colts Camp. Scott Agnes going to join us coming up at 8:30. Fever back in action tonight. Jonathan Alexander, cover of the Texans, at 9 o'clock. C.J. Stroud back throwing. Is that shoulder fine? Didn't he have a little shoulder hiccup in the spring?
He did, and D'Amico Ryan wouldn't really tell us or tell the media, that is, whether he had surgery or not or anything to clean up his shoulder. So we'll see from Jonathan if there is more information there.
So the Colts do not play the Texans until late this year. It's the reverse of last year. Remember, both games were pre-Halloween last year. These two games are both post-Thanksgiving.
Yep. I want to say the last one is in Houston. That's the season finale.
Yeah, and then I think that's Sunday right after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Over/under 1.5 personal foul penalties on E.J. Speed against his former team in those two matchups.
1.5. I'm going to go under.
Wow, you think he's going to behave?
I just think it's really hard to get two penalties.
Have you watched E.J. Speed play football?
I don't know if he's going to be playing enough to do that. That's why I said under.
That is a question I'm going to throw Jonathan's way. I'm curious if E.J. Speed will
thinking, man.
play out here. Again, linebacker depth, certainly a question for the Colts. If you are coming out here to Grand Park, that is a position group you will definitely have to look into your roster for in a little bit on the depth chart front. Are these, Mark, do we know this? Are these Stranger Things jerseys? Are they going to become more of a thing, or is this just a one-night occurrence for the Fever?
I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming it's the tie into the final season starting, but yeah, I don't know if these are like one-offs because the actual season doesn't start until Thanksgiving. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know if this is a one-off or if we're going to see these, a couple times the rest of the year.
Yeah, shout out to Hawkins, Indiana here. Stranger Things tonight inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse, 7 o'clock. 2-point underdog, the Fever here against the Aces at Chicago on Sunday. Really no real Caitlin Clark update. I know we talked a little bit about it earlier in the show, but it would be my expectation we do not see her until August because, James, they've tried to do the restart with her on a couple different occasions.
Right. When
they do it again, I would think she's going to need a full week of practice, right? So right now it's what, July 24th? Well, if I'm doing the math here, July 24th to July 31st, that would be a week. Again, maybe not even until mid-August, I think, would be the thought process with her there. So that, again, continues to be a storyline for the Fever. We'll see if Stephanie White has any update tonight at pregame media availability.
I think the best thing you can do for Caitlin right now is to sit her down for quite some time. Even the day-to-day status, once she gets all of the feedback, you need to have a plan for her long-term recovery that does not involve trying to get back as soon as possible. I understand that the team is struggling right now, and they've obviously dropped the spot in the standings, but her long-term health should be paramount, and she has to be real with herself too and be honest about how she actually feels because, again, we've seen these things kind of become cyclical this season, and you don't want that to continue as you try to obviously get right for your team. So, again, if you're a couple games out of contention or out of the playoff contention, but you're able to get healthy, I'd feel better about you going on a run and trying to get back into the playoff picture and going on a run in the playoffs if you're healthier for it. But trying to just, get back as soon as possible, it just hasn't worked out well.
Thank you, Luke. 7 times the Fever will rock these jerseys. That's a lot, which I love it. And they're all home game. Well, no, actually, I'm looking here. Maybe one of these are on the road there. So I like that because these are some good-looking jerseys as well. Mark Dykton, did you Gilligan me? Did you do a pick stitch of me and Gilligan?
No, that was not me. That was shout out to Gritty, who's always in the chat. She sent that to me. So listeners doing the Lord's work this morning.
Yeah, I mean,
I knew Gilligan would be right over the head of James Boyd, but he's looking at the picture right now.
I had to Google it.
I think, part Gilligan, but I still think I look like a senior analyst for Marcus Freeman's staff getting ready to go out to the practice fields today.
I think you got the cool sailor look. Do you own a beach house somewhere?
Looks like he's on the Senior Bowl or something like that. You're scouting some people.
Oh, yeah. Senior Bowl.
Do you see the little
I do see that.
Notre Dame action here?
Yes,
Actually, my degenerate brother-in-law, the one that has the big bet, he's the one that got this for me for Christmas. So I'm rocking it. It's going to be hot.
I don't know, like Connor Stallions. That's the vibe you're giving me right now.
Definitely
You're stealing
Connor
signals
Stallions vibes.
and sneaking into place with the shades.
I forgot about that, man. The Michigan signal stealer. Is he still coaching high school football up in
no
Michigan?
Idea. Guys,
can we get one of these Indiana schools? Carmel, that, in Center Grove? Don't they need to, add to their schedule with them not in the mix? Can they add Connor Stallions? Can we get that as a storyline for Greg Rakestraw to talk about here?
Hilarious.
On a Friday. We are live here. Speaking of high school football, we always pass Westfield Stadium here. Coming up to Grand Park, and this is where we are for day 2 of Colts training camp. The field's starting to come to life. Gates will open up at 9 o'clock and 10 a.m. the start time here for Colts practice. It is going to be a hot one, but that's why they're practicing in the morning. If you're coming out to Colts camp, say hi to us. We're up in the northwest part of the practice fields. Kevin Bone and James Boyd in Westfield, Indiana. Mark Dykton back on the circle. It's a fan morning show here on a Thursday.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
It's going to be a scorcher here in Westfield on this Thursday morning. Practice gets underway. 10 a.m. Shout out to listener Carlton. These donuts from the Fluff Bake Shop are tremendous. And again, this is part of what I was saying, James Boyd. On a day like today, you know you're just going to sweat. So that means I can eat like 3 of these, right? It'll be good. And it just all comes out in the wash.
I was going to say, are you going to make sure you get a couple bananas in there make sure you don't cramp up? Any mustard in the car? You know?
Yeah.
Bringing back my AAU days.
Yeah, I need some potassium probably. At some point here. That's Mark Dighton back in studio. We are here again coming up 10 o'clock. It will be, kind of another OTA ramp-up period. Are we doing full pads first day Saturday or Monday? I forget what Shane Steichen said yesterday.
I'll have to.
Do you ramp up the whole week? Is it 4 days? I forget
would think so.
CBA rules.
Or would you prefer to put pads on perhaps Saturday and have the day off Sunday?
Right. Again, I think kind of the big point, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday are those back-to-back morning days. I could see those be back-to-back full pad days. I think those would kind of be some key periods here coming up in practice. So we will continue to be up here for these morning sessions. And if you are up here, certainly stop by and say, hey, before we get back in the Colts conversation, made a appearance on Setting the Pace, Alex Golden's podcast, who we had on earlier in the week. I know the Chad Buchanan comments, and it does seem like the coaching staff continues to talk about this guy in pretty high regard. Where does Johnny Furphy get minutes next year, or does he get minutes?
I think he will get minutes, but would it be the back end of the rotation? Like, would he be the 8th guy or 9th guy, or maybe even the 10th or 11th? But I do think that he showed a lot of promise throughout Summer League. The handle, I know everyone gets caught up in, like, the athleticism. The dunks were crazy. But the handle, to me, was pretty impressive. His ability to get in the lane, break people down. Now, obviously, he's not going
with that.
He's not going against NBA-level talent, and a lot of those guys will be G Leaguers or perhaps not in the NBA. However, you'd like to see him dominate the way that he did throughout Summer League, and I thought that he took a step forward in that regard. And also, the shooting looks pretty good, too. I know percentage-wise he didn't shoot that well, but the form looks pretty good. Nice arc on the ball, and, obviously it matters the most whether it goes in or not, but I thought he showed some promise in those areas as well. So is he someone who's in the back end of the rotation? Possibly. But, again, I think that he has to show that he can defend. That's probably the biggest way he can get on the floor because, as we know, if Rick Carlisle is going to give anybody a leash, it's whether or not you defend. And I think that's why Ben Shepherd has gotten so much, burn or playing time, as they say. I said burn, I'm sorry, I used slang on air. Burn means playing time in hoops terms, I guess. But, yes, that to me would be a good indicator as how well you're sitting down on defense.
Yeah, we did this exercise, I think it was last week. But, James, when you map out a starting 5 and then a bench group, if you call it a 5-man bench group, we didn't have Furphy in it. Again, the starting 5, Nembhard, Mathurin, Nesmith, Siakam. Let's just call Isaiah Jackson a starting center.
Okay.
Your backup 5, T.J. McConnell, Ben Shepherd, Jarris Walker, Obi Toppin. Let's call Jay Huff the backup center. That's not Furphy in those 10. So if I said Furphy got into that 10, you would take minutes away from who?
Maybe is it Jarris? Is it Obi? I would think it has to be like a wing spot.
It's not Shepherd.
I would want to say that, but have you seen how much Rick Carlisle trusts Ben Shepherd?
I know, man. I know.
He plays, man.
He does.
So, and then also Ben Shepherd's more of like a guard instead of like a wing. Like, I don't consider him someone who you would throw on like a 3 or someone who's like a forward. Like, you're not putting him on – I don't think you're putting Ben Shepherd on Paul George, but you might want to put Johnny Furphy on him because of the size and length. So that, to me, is probably a factor of why I probably have him more like that wing position instead of the guard position.
Yeah, and I think another big thing, too, in regards to next year will be just how much are you willing to put on Andrew Nembhard's plate. When he is handling the point guard duties.
That's the money question right there.
Offensively, 82 nights out of the year, are you still going to ask of him the defensive responsibility that you have asked of him in years past? And, again, I get why you've thrown that defensive stuff on his plate, but how many lead point guards are also guarding the best team's perimeter player. I can't think of many, if any, in the NBA that are asked to do that. And if not, does that just mean Nesmith gets that assignment every night? Does it mean Matherin gets asked to do that? That's definitely not his strength. So I do think that is another question for next season of, the Thunder is obviously the perfect example of it. And we had this discussion a little bit during the finals. Tyrese never got to the injured state outside of Game 7.
Right.
To where this became a huge discussion point of if all of a sudden Tyrese was not going to play in a game, would Nembhard still be the point guard, be the lead guard, and also guard Shea for 40 minutes a night? So not that Furphy, I'm kind of deviating from the Furphy discussion, but that's another question I have for next season.
I agree with that. I mean, really going into next year, I understand Andrew Nembhard, going back to your earlier point, Kevin, has really impressed and I think honestly outplayed where he was drafted. And if you had to do it all over again, he'd go in the first round and pretty high in that first round. But with more of a workload, there's always a plateau a player is going to hit, because otherwise you'd be a star. And I think what the Pacers are kind of looking at Andrew Nembhard to do is kind of seeing, can he make that star jump? And that is the question that I am very curious about, because every time you've given Andrew Nembhard more, he's succeeded. But is there a plateau there next season? And also, is it good to kind of find what that threshold is? We talked about the potential and what he could be, but, if Andrew Nembhard comes out next year and shows us he can really run an offense, he can be a lead guard and not have to defer to Tyrese Halliburton, how much does that enhance your offense when Halliburton does become healthy again, and you're able to say, okay, yeah, we know that you're our lead guy most nights, Ty. However, we're going to give you some plays off and keep you fresher because this guy can do it too. We've seen some of that in flashes, but can we see it in a higher volume is my question. And I think Andrew Nembhard is excited to sort of prove himself. And I think the entire team is kind of excited. Going back to the T.J. McConnell piece from yesterday, in the Players Tribune, they want to show that we're not going to be these bad news bears. We're not going to be this one-run team or whatever. We're going to show you guys that we might have to take a step back this year because our best player is gone. But we're going to come bounce back, be ready for it.
That is the voice of James Boyd. We are live here in Westfield, Colts training camp day 2. Oh, he lost a pad. Driving out there, lost a pad. But putting all the pads on the golf cart and making sure you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Honestly, it looks like
Mark, that is brutal.
Looks like the Colts pass
catcher.
catcher.
They left him.
Yeah, it's good to get the little exercise. Looks like Colts pass catchers from yesterday with the amount of drops that they had. Let's go to a guy that, again, I don't know if I've heard Shane Steichen talk about a player in this light. And, for those that are not addicted to Shane Steichen press conferences, like sadly James and I's life has to be, very rarely is offering individual praise. Very rarely.
Right. He didn't offer much of any for either quarterback yesterday, by the way.
There was a moment in the spring where he was asked just generally about the defense, and all of a sudden out of the blue, he singled out Justin Wally, the third-round pick out of Minnesota. Again, a little background on Wally. He's the anti-Chris Bauer draft pick. He's the short corner. He's the 5'10 corner. That, again, I don't know if cornerback was all of a sudden this glaring need entering the draft after Travarius Ward was signed in free agency. So following yesterday's practice, Shane Steichen was asked about Justin Wally. Again, the quote isn't super long, but the words certainly indicate some high praise.
Well, he's a pretty damn good player. He did some really good things in the spring, so he's going to compete, at that spot, and so that's why you saw him out there.
That spot would be the third corner, which, again, in today's NFL is a pseudo-starter. Travarius Ward and Kenny Moore would be the two top corners that you would have. James Boyd, I would not have asked this to you in the spring. I don't know if I would have asked you it before yesterday. Which rookie plays more, Tyler Warren or Justin Wally?
Put me on the spot here. I'm going to say Justin Wally based off of yesterday and the amount of snaps that he got because, as we know, Kevin, we can't get too caught up in who's in the starting unit sometimes because it can fluctuate. So, for example, I know you doing your pieces on 107.5 The Fan afterwards in your notebooks, which I do read, by the way. Great work. And in my opinion, when you list,
I read your work as well.
Yeah, I mean, we're in this together, brother. But when I read your end of your segments and you say, here's a starting unit, you always typically throughout those notebooks, you have a bit of a caveat saying, well, these rotated or these switched. And so I didn't want to become beholden when I saw Justin Wally out there. I was like, okay, a couple reps. Then I look up again, the ones are back out there, more reps.
There's number 27.
And then ones again, there's more
27.
reps. And so that to me proved that for the first day of camp, he took all the first-team reps. And what is more alarming about it is we didn't go into the draft thinking, oh, the Colts are going to draft a starting cornerback. In my mind, I was thinking, Jalen Jones has proved that he's a pretty good starting cornerback in the NFL. And so for Justin to supplant him this early lets me know that he must be playing very well because Jalen Jones is no scrub. I thought that he had made some strides.
No, I mean, that's the thing. If we added up the defensive snaps from the last 2 years, James, I'd be willing to bet that Jalen Jones perhaps played the most snaps of any Colts defender. I mean, right up there with Zaire Franklin and
especially on
Kenny
the outside.
Moore. I mean, he's played a lot, and I don't think he's played poorly either. So, this gets back into our conversation. Where are the strengths on this Colts roster? And, when you say corner, it's something we've never said before in the Chris Ballard era, but I think there are some reasons why you do say that right now. We should mention, there are, I think, players that, people have a lot of intrigue for, curiosity about every single day here at Colts training camp. Tyler Warren and A.D. Mitchell. Let's hit on both of those.
Yeah, Tyler, I thought, had a quiet day yesterday.
He had the one target in team drills that Joe Bacci, the linebacker, came over from the Bengals, broke up there. A.D. Mitchell, I called it a catch and a fumble over the middle. I know some people called it a drop. I think he secured it.
Yeah.
And then again, the fumbles are weird when you're not fully tackling, but I forget who got their hands in there, but somebody punched it out.
Yeah.
I think Mitchell, the only other time he was targeted, I think a Richardson missed him wide on an out route.
And honestly, that play that you're alluding to on the out route, Kevin, it felt like the plays we saw last year where it's like,
such a great
are they on the same page? Because, again, you're kind of confused. I believe it might have been, Reggie Wayne was kind of pointing like 80 had run the right route, but then Anthony was kind of confused with how things had happened. And so, to me, that has kind of been a theme for A.D. Mitchell so far throughout his pro career is, can you get on the same page as the quarterback?
Yeah, that's the perfect way to describe what that play was. I think it was Richardson's first throw of the entire day in a team period drill. That was the update yesterday. I'm trying to think of other big names people are curious about. Latu, like we mentioned, looks to be a full-time starter right now opposite Kwity Paye in that defensive end package. We'll see as Samson Ebukam ramps it up from the torn Achilles, how much that plays into it. And again, anytime we're talking about guys in the trenches, we probably should wait till the full pads.
Yeah,
when those come on.
I had a few people asking me about the new offensive line. I believe Danny Pinter took the first starting rep under center. Correct me if I'm wrong there,
I think
Kevin.
It was Bortolini.
Okay, Bortolini. But they did rotate
I would think it'll be Pinter to start today.
Yeah, exactly. So they did rotate. But again, it's hard for me to tell you at right guard, Matt Gonzalez is doing his thing because they're not hitting anybody. So I guess from a communication standpoint, he looked like he was confused out there, which is a good thing. But hard to tell with the offensive line. But I know some people who love the trenches, kind of like Chris Ballard, want to know about that. But that's pretty much my evaluation.
Full pads on Monday. Sorry, Mark.
I'm
full
curious.
pads on Monday.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. No, I was just curious. Any thoughts on the linebacker crew? Because obviously that's a group that people don't have a lot of questions or answers on.
Yeah, let me just finish that brief thought. Full pads Monday. So, for those that are thinking about coming out here, again, this ramp-up period will last 4 days. Yeah. And then Monday, and James, do you get that Monday, Tuesday feel to it? Next week you have 5 practices out here at Grand Park.
And I'll get my my full pads on for Monday.
Yes, James Boyd will be looking like a little giant out there on the field. Okay, linebacker-wise, yesterday, James, the Colts had, I believe, I should double-check if Samson Ebukam was practicing yesterday. But did they have 89 of their 90 guys practicing yesterday? Zaire Franklin was it?
Yeah, I was going to say, if it wasn't 88, it's probably 87, to your point about Samson Ebukam, which is just bizarre for a football team. I know people probably who might not be that into this sort of time of year. They're like, wait, what do you mean most teams aren't healthy? It's just the nature of the game, man. Like, football players, teams rarely have it where every guy is going to be available and not on the physically unable to perform list to start the year. So that is something to keep in mind, and that they're very fortunate for that because, as every football player will tell you, none of them feel as good as they felt going into yesterday, and they won't feel that good again until after the season, until they get some time off. So I thought that was a good point. And getting back to Mark's question, the linebackers, I thought there were a couple that made some plays.
I thought they had a pretty active day.
Austin and Jakey, I believe, had a couple of plays on the ball. Cameron McGrone was out there as well. I think he's one of the starters. Jalen Carlisle started as well. And I thought that Joe Bocci had a nice break up there with Tyler Warren.
Let's go with some background on these guys because these are unknown dudes to a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, Cameron McGrone
so again,
is like
Franklin is out right now.
Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
So Jalen Carlisle is starting. Missed the spring with a shoulder issue. He was definitely on a volume pitch count yesterday.
Yes.
The thought is he will start next to Franklin. Again, 5th-round pick out of Missouri, making the position switch. Welcome to today's day and age of football. The safety in college becomes a linebacker in the NFL. So that's what you're seeing with Carlisle. You mentioned Cameron McGrone. Shout out to 56th Street. Shout out to the Lawrence Central Bear.
Central, baby.
He's been on this team for, I would say, a year or two, right? I mean, hasn't he been kind of a practice squad guy? So he's definitely been hanging around. So he would be number 59 when you come out here. Joe Bocci, again, I love bocce ball. I played bocce ball on my family reunion. What a great sport. Have you ever bocceed it?
I have bocceed it. It's not something that I think we will do at my family reunions because they're always trying to find like some dances for us to learn or line dancing and stuff like that.
I feel like I should get an invite after the Young Jock performance.
Hey, you're always welcome. We need some other, some light-skinned brothers out there, But I will say, as far as bocce, I haven't done it in a while, though. It was fun.
It's a great sport. Actually, Maddie's, I guess, cousin-in-law, if that's a word, he actually shattered one of the bocce balls, one of the more electric moments I've ever seen. Shout out to Greg Reeder.
He was playing.
For that moment there. I was glad it wasn't me. David Cheeseman had these bocce balls, and I was thoroughly glad it was not me. You cannot have the man that's, married into the family be doing that.
You got breaking stuff?
No, not at all. But, yeah, 48, the jersey number there, Bocce, and he comes over from Cincinnati with Anarumo.
Right.
Now, again, when
more
he was in Cincy, correct, more of a 4th-down special teamer, he got a good amount of spring run with the starting group. I would say him and McGrone were the two that I saw with the starters a lot in the spring.
Right.
A guy that I think some Colts fans will recall the name, but he's yet to really get the starting reps here as they've rotated guys in and out. Shaguna Luby, number 50, is still on the team, but he's not really getting those starting type reps. And remember, Grant Stewart, one of my favorite interviews we've ever done on the show last year after his, he had 18 tackles in a game, he is now up in Detroit. Grant Stewart and Dan Campbell seem like two dudes that would get along.
Yes, because they're both kind of weirdly overly football-y, if that makes sense.
I need an Oklahoma drill with Dan Campbell and Grant Stewart. But
that's
a little bit of the linebacker background. Again, they didn't draft anybody. They didn't make a free agent signing there. Hunter Wohler, the 7th-round pick out of Wisconsin, he's a safety, not a linebacker. So, Mark Dykton, there's your linebacker update.
Thank you.
For this Thursday morning. All right, upcoming Scott Agnes. We'll get just a little bit of Pacer news, but obviously hit the Fever coming up tonight. And then 9 o'clock, we'll chat a little bit about the Houston Texans. Are they indeed the favorite for the AFC South? We'll continue our tour around the division with Jonathan Alexander from Chronicle or
Chronicle,
the Athletic?
baby.
Chronicle down there in H-Town. Mark Dykton, let's hit a morning check down.
The Morning Checkdown on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, let's start with the Fever. Tonight, 7 o'clock, inside of Gamebridge Fieldhouse, the Aces of Las Vegas back in town. James, you mentioned this earlier. The Fever whooped up on them earlier this month inside of Gamebridge Fieldhouse. Wasn't that the first time they had beaten the Aces in like 6 years?
Yes, which is crazy, but also considering how dominant the Aces used to be, I wasn't all that surprised considering on the flip side how bad the Fever used to be as well.
So they are a slight favorite. That would be the Aces. Again, no Caitlin Clark tonight. I think it's very important when you get these home opportunities without Caitlin Clark that you take advantage of them. I understand her absence is needed right now to get back to full health, but also standings watch is going to take on more and more of a microscope here as we inch closer to the end of the regular season. Still about 2 months to go in that. But 7 o'clock, you can hear that right here on The Fan. Let's go back to yesterday, day one of training camp. James, for our Colts fans that maybe are just tuning into the show, could you explain how the quarterback reps were divvied up yesterday and the plan moving forward?
The quarterback competition is over. Jason Bean has won. It is what it is. But no, it was split. I want to say almost very evenly between Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones. And I think you pointed out, Kevin, it might have been one throw difference between the two. But overall, I thought that Anthony Richardson kind of struggled with some accuracy, some anticipation. Had one nice throw over the middle. That was, to me, his best throw of the day, right over the middle to Michael Pittman Jr. for a first down. It looked like a nice catch and run there. And then for Daniel Jones, he was more efficient, which isn't surprising to me. However, he did get picked off by Kenny Moore II in 7-on-7. Had a rough 7-on-7 period to end the day. But I think he was 6 of 7 passing, or 6 of 8 if you want to count the 11-on-11 period, 6 of 8 in that segment. So to me, neither quarterback looked all that great or all that promising. Like, I didn't leave yesterday thinking that, one quarterback was, significantly in the lead or had significantly lost, some ground in the quarterback competition. To me, it was just further confirmation of why they're even having a competition, because neither guy looked like a dude to me.
No, and I didn't think the pass catchers helped them out either. Which
very good point
I
there. That, to me, might be a little more concerning than the quarterback play. Overall, obviously, quarterback play matters more because you got to be able to, be a dude at that position, because it's the most important position in the sport. However, the pass catchers, I'm like, you guys aren't new to this. You guys are supposed to be one of the best positions on the team, and we're not seeing that.
Yeah, and if you're coming out to Colts camp today, I would assume Daniel Jones would get a little bit more of the 11-on-11 starting reps today than Richardson, if indeed they're going to flip-flop that moving forward. So 10 a.m. right here in Westfield. Major League Baseball from yesterday. The Reds are great, and the Cubs and Cardinals stink.
Let me check the standings. I haven't seen the updated standings after that Reds victory.
We're giving daily updates. We're just here to talk about what happened.
Yeah, well, give me a daily standings update,
we don't need to live in the archaic past. We're simply living in the present.
It's a solid win by your Reds.
Go over to that.
They are now only 8.5 games back of the Brewers.
Yeah, go over to that column. It says W1, and it says L1 next to the Cubs here. Let's just live in the present here,
perfectly
Mark
after that.
What was that, Kevin? What did you say?
The P flew perfectly after that.
That was you when you were in the woods at the Notre Dame game, apparently, and you were excited to see Curt Cignetti on stage, and you were having bodily issues until that happened.
No, yeah, I mean, I needed to go, so went in the woods, just, behind the parking lot there, and as soon as I saw Curt Cignetti make an appearance on College game day before kickoff, I thought Notre Dame by how many? Yeah, that was huge. Gosh,
well, it was by 10.
Right, and felt like 100. That was one of my best peas in my life there. And looking at these woods here at Grand Park, it kind of is reminiscent of those in South Bend, Indiana. Speaking of Indiana, it will be the team up in West Lafayette meeting the media today, out for Big Ten Media Days. Did I see Purdue is returning one starter on their football team?
That is crazy to me, but also not that crazy because they were not good. So
I know, but I get they weren't good. I get we're living in an NIL era. It's still kind of wild.
That is.
That you only return one of 22.
You got 22 of them.
Just one.
And watch the returning starter be like the kicker. So it doesn't even count.
For the Boilermakers this year. I remember one of their kickers didn't help me out with the bet this past year. I wasn't too happy about. Laguna Seca for IndyCar coming up on Sunday. You can hear that right here on our airwaves. Or actually, that might be on the stream or somewhere else because we have the Brickyard coming up on Sunday. So don't quote me on that. But IndyCar, a super busy month of July. We'll see if Pato Ward can make it. I don't think he's yet made it interesting, but he could start to make it more interesting if he continues to win some races, and Alex Palou continues to be Alex Palou-like. Unlikely, but at least something to keep an eye out for. All right, on the other side, Scott Agnes. You find his work at Fieldhouse Files. We'll talk a little Pacers, we'll talk a little Fever with him next. City of Indianapolis. Really, it started, I think, mostly yesterday. Chase Briscoe is making the rounds. Certainly plenty of ties here locally. He was out at Colts Camp at the Indians game last night, and he will be a big fan favorite coming up this weekend, Sunday, 2 o'clock on our airwaves. And again, they are out on the Oval. Last year, Kyle Larson certainly has plenty of history over there in IMS, recent history that is, and he got it done after a couple of years on the road course. So Sunday, 2 o'clock right here on our airwaves. No Colts Camp on Sunday. A lot of eyes over there at 16th in Georgetown for the Brickyard 400.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Look at this, Mark Dykton. I feel like I'm a little bit on the edge of my couch right now, getting ready to watch the next episode. Stranger Things, that theme music right there, because the Fever are rocking those jerseys coming up tonight, and I believe 7 times the rest of the year. I think Luke pointed that out to us a little bit earlier in the show. To talk more about that, where we're at from a Pacers standpoint, let's head to the Payless Liquors hotline right now from Fieldhouse Files. He is Scott Agnes. Scott, good morning to you. You are usually all over these sorts of stories. Could you explain for our audience how the Stranger Things uniforms came about?
Yeah, it's a renewed of a partnership that was first established 4 years ago, and I think it was so beloved by fans and the players that they brought it back, and so they'll be wearing them 7 times this year, including tonight, and the majority of the games will be at home. The only one that is not, it's in L.A., in Hollywood, so that kind of makes sense. So that'll be a fun thing, I think, for the fans and the players here coming up.
Scott, should there be a time limit on when you can wear the Stranger Things jerseys, or just the episodes in general? I'm looking now. The first episode came out in 2016. 11 was 11. So if we're doing some math here, 11 is now a grown woman basically. So is this okay? Are we allowed to bring back these jerseys and keep this thing going?
Most get off my lawn comment you've ever had here.
I'm just asking.
I feel like James is normally
how long should a series be?
Things like this too, yeah.
Oh, the jerseys are fire. I'm just talking about the show itself. How long should the show continue if they're all like grown?
Well, I think the big thing here is they're releasing the final season, and so they're trying to drum up the interest and lead into and celebrate all of that. So this is the final time. It's got to be because of it, right?
Yeah, I'm about to say 11 is 21.
It's like Goldberg's got 3 kids, and he's filming Mighty Ducks 3 here.
I'm just thinking, like, wait a second. These are grown men and women now. But anyways,
and go for it.
On a more serious note, Scott, we do have a big game tonight here over at Gamebridge Fieldhouse. And this, I keep saying this is a big one for the Fever because of the standings. The Aces have now jumped them in the standings. So to start off with, how big is this game, and what is the latest on Caitlin Clark?
Yeah, it's significant because of the way the Fever finished this last game, because of the way they've played in the last week. The challenge is, and I hate to keep bringing it up, but the schedule makers are not doing them any favors. The Fever, honestly, being the host city team, you had probably a few players that were able to enjoy like 2 days off. The game was Saturday. They practiced Sunday. They traveled Monday, played the best team in the league or one of the best teams in New York, and now they face traditionally one of the better teams in the league. The interesting thing to me, James, here is it was just 3 weeks ago when these two teams met last, and the Aces might have played the worst game I have ever seen. Just nobody was engaged. I think nobody outside Asia Wilson made more than 2 field goals, more than like 6 points. Like, it felt like a group that couldn't have been more disinterested to play in that game. Now, they've gotten a little bit healthier. We obviously saw Jackie Young quietly play only about a minute of the All-Star game because of a hip injury she's been dealing with. They've won their last 3 games. But, yeah, the thing, how I view the Fever schedule right now, James, is they need to win the games they're supposed to. They need to win about 50% of their games here. Hope that Caitlin Clark can get back and hit stride here late in the season, and then figure it out in the playoffs. Because this could be a dangerous team that in the playoffs with the home crowd, no matter where you are, nobody wants to face. And then just in terms of Caitlin, this has just been a tough week for her from a physical standpoint as she tries to figure out what's next and formulate a plan. She's met with multiple doctors from across the country. They've had long conversations with the training staff, coaches, and everyone in medical, just trying to figure out what it's going to take for her. And I think, to me, over the weekend, and talking and hearing from Sabrina Ionescu, I thought it was most interesting from her because she dealt with stuff like this her first couple of years. And that was one thing I wrote about this weekend, was her saying, look, I learned from my first experience. Now I'm healthy, but those first 2 years were a grind. They were a battle. And the thing I took out of it, she was saying, was you gotta get healthy, you gotta get right before you come back. Because if you keep kicking it down the road, if you force your way back, it's going to pile up and hurt you in the long term.
Scott Agnes with us here, talking about the Fever again. As James said, the Aces tonight, slight underdog, the Fever at home without Caitlin Clark. Scott, I guess how long do you envision this happening? I said earlier in the show, I don't see her back until, at least August. I probably pinpoint maybe more the middle of August. I just think after ramping it up and restarting it so many times, you're going to need a big-time ramp-up period here. So I guess, A, do you expect her back this season? I assume that's a yes. And then, B, September 9th's the end of the regular season. How close to that date do you think we get? Do you look at the start of August, middle of August? Any sort of guess on that?
Yeah, so obviously they have not announced or made anything formal. But my guess here for UKB would be at least a couple of weeks, and you get into that early August portion, and you reevaluate how she's feeling, because she's doing everything she can at this point, the hyperbaric chambers, the daily treatments, all those different type of things. And quite frankly, these are injuries that just need rest. They need you to be off your feet and not doing too much, which is not easy for someone like her, especially being so young and active. But I would guess at least a couple more weeks here, KB. Then they'll reevaluate and go from there. But I think mostly she just needs to take it easy. But I would be surprised. I see a lot of people, angry fans on Twitter saying, "Hey, she's out for the season. Throw it in." And it's like, let's not jump to conclusions. There's no reason to believe that her season is done whatsoever.
I've never heard of angry fans on Twitter. That's news to me. Scott Agnes from Fieldhouse Files with us here. Payless Liquors Hotline. Let's shift gears to the Pacers. Tyrese Halliburton, we heard him on with Pat McAfee earlier this week. Long interview on a variety of topics. I don't care where you want to go. The Miles Turner stuff, Tyrese on his own rehab, just anything interesting stand out to you? Because at this point, we probably don't really hear from Tyrese again until maybe training camp or media day. And once that happens, who knows how often we'll hear from him during this rehab.
Yeah, although we might see something regular with Pat, the way things have gone with them as they build up this budding relationship for sure. But I was waiting for the natural segue there, switching gears, Pascal Siakam on the Speedway. But anyway, sorry.
Oh, Scott. Beautiful there.
Do your job better, Kevin.
I know. Unbelievable.
I would say a couple things jumped out to me. First of all, Kevin Durant visiting his house to check in on him. You knew there's certainly a text thread, right? Probably with Jason Tatum. They share a skills trainer. And Kevin Durant's been really good with checking in. I'm sure there's several others. So that one was notable to me, given what has gone on. Them bringing up Miles Turner, and still you can just tell this group was a little bit salty about the way this went down with Miles. And I think everybody expected him back. They expected to build on what they did last year and make this a multi-year thing here, continuing even without Tyrese in the short term. And so the fact that we still have not had one player, at least that I've seen, come out and say, hey, on social media, congrats, Miles, or go get that bag, or can't wait for our matchups. It's noteworthy to me that we still have not seen that, and clearly probably at this point will not at all ever see that. But there was that. And then I would also say I thought it was interesting, KB, how he described the injury, how he described the risk factors, and how he felt. And he finally mostly did acknowledge that, hey, look, that limp, that was something. That was actually the beginning of all of this. And I remember people say, oh, man, he's just a basketball player. He's just limping off the podium. It's just for sure. And it turned out, no, that was ultimately the beginning of this. We saw him then use kinesiology tape on it, then Then it became a calf strain, and then obviously he huddled with team doctors, other doctors, and that gave him enough clearance and comfort to return. And I thought it was also noteworthy, KB, too, him saying, hey, look, he played those 23 minutes in Game 6, felt no issues at all, went out in Game 7, said he wasn't feeling it. I thought all of that and more was revealing in that interview. You're right.
So, Scott, the pettiness in me won't allow you to get out of here with this question. So when they match up against the Bucs next season, who's the first player to get Miles Turner on the island in the ISO and go at him? Who's the first player? You got a few. You can throw out there. You got Andrew Nimhart. You got Benedict Mathurin.
It's got to be Mathurin after that little picture of him dunking on Miles on social.
That's exactly where I was going, Kevin. Yep. We haven't seen much on social at all, but we did see Mathurin post that Instagram quietly of him dunking on him.
Okay.
I think was at Pascal Siakam's house during their players-only minicamp. And, and Mathurin, if he moves into the starting lineup, which I feel like should be the right route here, he'll get ample opportunities to do that. And he's a competitor, so he would be the one. To me, it's got to be Mathurin.
Anything more to add on Pascal Siakam and the pace car? I know he's a huge soccer guy, but, not that there has to be racing background with this, but anything more to add with Pascal Siakam coming up, Brickyard 400 and the pace car?
I think just that he's a guy that loves sports and loves these big opportunities. If the Pacers were not in the NBA Finals and such, I think he would have been out there at the Indianapolis 500. I know his agent was out there enjoying all that. He obviously has a partnership with Red Bull that does extreme sports and things like that. So I think this is a good opportunity for Pascal to take in the Speedway, where he has been before, by the way, but now he'll be able to participate.
Scott Agnes, Fieldhouse Files, where you can find his work, and he'll have your covers coming up tonight. Pacers, Fever and Aces inside of Gamebridge Fieldhouse. Scott, as always, thank you, sir.
Absolutely, guys. Can't believe it's Colts season already, but here we go.
Indeed, it is here, July 24th, and we are out here in Westfield. This is practice number 2. Much more on the Colts. What to expect in day 2. What does a more physical camp mean to Shane Steichen? We'll hit on that on the other side. Kevin Bone and James Boyd in Westfield. Thank you to Phelan, on-site engineer. Mark Dykton back in studio. Fan Morning Show right here, 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
listening to the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, fans, once again, starting to line up. Gates will open in about 10 minutes, and an hour and 10 from now, James Boyd. Back to practice.
We'll be baking in the sun.
We will be baking. I did a little weather check this morning on the drive in. When practice gets over today around 11 a.m., it will feel like 95. If this was an afternoon practice around 4 o'clock today, it'll feel like 103 degrees.
You know what's always surprising to me? The people I see running in this heat. I'm like, you guys are very, very dedicated.
Like non-football players, you're talking about real humans.
Like real humans. I'll be driving, back over to downtown Indianapolis, and even over by the station, I'm like, these people are running in the circle, and it's like 98 degrees.
They are crazy. God bless them. Hope they
stay hydrated.
Okay. Frankly, yes, and stay hydrated. By the way, I just saw Blue walk in. Better chance Blue goes into the Ring of Honor one day or Andrew Luck?
Ooh, that's a good question. Probably Blue. I feel like Blue has like a universal approval rating of 100. Who hates Blue besides other mascots?
Chase Briscoe's son yesterday was loving a little Blue action.
Probably the kids that get stiff-armed by
camp.
him in those scrimmage, those peewee games.
Or you get pied a little bit.
Man, did you see him throw the ball off the pagoda the other day? He did his allegiant toss off the pagoda. That was an awesome video. That man's an athlete. All right, Mark, go ahead and play the Shane Steichen clip. We heard Chris Ballard earlier in the week, James, talk about more physicality to camp. And, again, we touched on this a little bit on yesterday's show. That sounds good, but you got a lot of restrictions in today's NFL.
Right.
Like what that can mean. Again, full pads, it sounds like nothing until Monday from a full pad standpoint. So
I have an idea for this.
Okay. Let's play the Shane Steichen clip, and then you can follow up. I was curious, asking Shane himself, what does more physicality mean to him?
Yeah, I think I just hit that a little bit. Just obviously with the long drive drills, the sudden change stuff, practices, the night practices we're having, the physicalness of it, the intensity that we got to bring every single day.
James, your thoughts?
Typical sort of non-answer. I don't know what else they can really say legally as far as the NFL. But here's my idea. Here's what I think they should do. And I'm not joking about this. I don't know if it's physicality more as it is competitiveness, but I would, at the end of every training camp practice, if you want to up the ante a little bit, one-on-ones. I need one-on-ones with, hey, pick a guy, and it could be playground style, me versus you.
Now, are we talking like Jonathan Taylor, Zaire Franklin?
I would love to see that, but I was thinking more of like the sexier skill positions perhaps. Like, is it linebacker and, the running back out of the backfield for a pass? I don't know if you could run plays. Is it cornerback on wide receiver, kind of like we talked about with Josh Downs and Kenny Moore. But do you get, 3 best-on-best reps or 3 reps or whatever? And even if you're a no-name guy, you can call out whoever. All right, Pittman, I want to line up against you. I would love to see that because I think that would add some juice because people love one-on-ones, and I feel like it is a very clear way to indicate who won or who lost. And that would up the ante. And people who lose would get even more mad about it.
Yeah, again, we're not going to get back to the 1960s NFL film style of training camp practice.
No.
But
although, the Steelers still, take guys to the ground sometimes?
Do they really?
Yes.
Huh.
Could you imagine somebody taking John Taylor to the ground?
No.
Lord.
No. I cannot at all. Shane has hit on this on several occasions now. And, again, I know it doesn't sound juicy. But that sudden change thing is a big deal to him. He felt like last year the team really suffered when the defense would force a turnover, the offense wouldn't take advantage of it. So,
but is that physicality or is that just
right? Again, that's where it's not true physicality. He says, well, we need a physical edge and we need a mental edge. Maybe it's more of the mental edge, where you don't take it and say, hey, that's a gift. We should be grateful for it. No. You take that gift and you say, hey, we got to take advantage of it. We've got to do something with it. I think that is kind of what Shane is alluding to there from a physicality standpoint. So this is not going to mean Oklahoma drill or more full padded practices or taking Jonathan Taylor to the ground. But when Chris and Shane have been so adamant about it will be a more physical camp, I guess just kind of more of the long drive stuff, Hey, are you straining? Are you 8-9 plays into a drive, full pads on, in this heat, And are you straining a little bit more? And again, how does that play when – what's the stat you shared yesterday?
20, which was the last year they made the playoffs. Since then, they are 5-9 between the weeks 16 and 18 in the regular season. 5-9.
5-9 in the final 3 weeks of the year. Boy, and they've lost to some sorry-ass quarterbacks in that time. Man.
They can't finish. Can't start, can't finish.
Blue or Andrew Luck, Mark? Who you got in the Ring of Honor?
I'm going to go Blue will get in before Andrew Luck. I don't know if Andrew Luck will make it. I think he would maybe if the owner were still around. I don't know what the new regime thinks.
We need that as a July 2nd debate next year. Nothing says summer radio like debating a mascot versus Andrew Luck being in it. This from listener Scotty. In the kids area yesterday, no one had hit any of the trick shots. Guy says, I've only seen these done once, and Blue has hit every single one of them. Hell, maybe Blue should play quarterback here if we can add him
entertainment
into the competition. They're mowing the field. We are live here in Westfield. Gates going to open in a few. Come say hi. We're in the northwest part of these fields. Kevin Bowe and James Boyd back in studio. The great Mark Dighton.
It's time for an AFC South refresher.
It's fresh. Nothing wrong with a little reminder, is there?
The Houston Texans.
Indeed, they are the division favorite, a team that has certainly had the Colts number here over the last few meetings. We're live here in Westfield. It is Colts training camp day number 2. Fans starting to trickle in to the beautiful Grand Park.
I should run the 40.
Complex. James Boyd thinking about running the 40. Cue up the Tyrese Halliburton worry over that. But James, I believe right now, thankfully we don't have to watch you run the 40. We can get a little intel into the division favorites.
There you go. A little more important. So we have my guy Jonathan Alexander on the line from the Houston Chronicle. Jonathan, thanks for joining us on the Payless Liquors hotline. How you doing, my man?
Pretty good, man. It's another year, another hot training camp. We talked about that yesterday, man. We burning up out here.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if I can complain about heat when you're down there in Houston. It gets a little different temperature-wise over there. But we'll start here with your quarterback, of course. I believe he is the best quarterback in the division. So it's been a while since I've checked in on this. But where is he at health-wise? I know there was some chatter about his shoulder in the spring. So how is he doing, and what's the outlook for that offense?
Yeah, he had a sore shoulder, and that kind of came from throwing a lot. And he's had that over the years since his days at Ohio State, which is why the Texans decided to rest him for a few OTA practices. But he came back minicamp, looked good, threw a lot, had throwing sessions after minicamp, and they threw it with him here on day 1 of training camp. So we don't anticipate the throwing shoulder being a problem. They may manage it throughout the season and practices, but it shouldn't be a problem heading into games and moving forward.
Can Jonathan Alexander with us here from the Houston Chronicle just posted something on C.J. Stroud and the consistent winning goal for him moving forward. Let's talk about the offensive line. I think, honestly, the only way Houston does not win this division for another year is if that O-line has some of the cracks and that potentially impacts C.J. Stroud like I think it did at times last season. How have they gone about trying to retool such a vital position group in regards to the entire division, not just C.J. Stroud?
Yeah, their offensive line was the weakest unit on this team. Gave up 54 sacks, the second most in the league, and it led to a lot of C.J. Stroud's struggles last year. He started to get happy feet a little bit. He was constantly pressured, had 8 sacks in that playoff game. So they retooled the offensive line. They basically rebuilt it, traded their Pro Bowl left tackle, got rid of their left guard and their right guard. And picked up a lot of pieces in free agency and the draft. And it's possible they could have 4 new players, but 5 guys at different positions come week 1. They're still shuffling through their offensive line, but that offensive line will be key to this offense taking another step. But I imagine even with the players that they acquired, they can't be worse than they were last year.
Jonathan, I'll pivot to this. I know for Houston, obviously, the standard as of late is to make the playoffs. And so what is that next step? What has that conversation been like? Because here in Indianapolis, it's, oh, my gosh, just get to the playoffs. But for Houston, I think a lot of it, or at least I would imagine, they feel like they've left some stuff on the bone the last couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at D'Amico's end-of-season press conference, the thing that he said he wanted to do to reach new heights is get past the divisional round. So their goal is to make the AFC Championship game or further. Obviously, they want to win a Super Bowl, but they at least want to get to the AFC Championship game because they've never done it in the history of the franchise. They've always won their first wild card game, got to the divisional round, and lost. That is a big goal for this team. They've been focused. Their best players are entering their primes when you include Stroud, Will Anderson Jr., Derek Stingley Jr., and Nico Collins, and they think with those players, if they can remain healthy, they have the ability to do it this year.
And then I have one follow-up on an Indy transplant, really going back home to the Texas area, and E.J. Speed joining the Texans. What will be his role in this defense, you think?
Yeah, I think he could be potentially that third linebacker after Azeez Al-Shaair and Henry To'oTo'o. Now, of course, the Texans have Christian Harris, who was a big factor for them in 2023, but he was injured for much of 2024 and hasn't participated yet all offseason in any practices. And EJ Speed has gotten a lot of the first-team reps with guys out. So, I could see him being that third linebacker and definitely playing a big role on special teams. He'll have his opportunities because the Texans linebackers have not been healthy this season.
Jonathan Alexander from the Houston Chronicle with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. Last one for me, Jonathan. We appreciate your time early on this Thursday morning. How do you view the South as a whole? Do you view it as Houston is the overwhelming favorite? How do you look at the next tier? I assume Tennessee you would have on kind of that bottom rung of the ladder. How do you view the South?
Yeah, I think it's getting better. I think it's getting closer. I think this is the time that the Texans need to take a step because I think teams are catching up to them. I don't think they're up to the point right now. I still see the Texans winning the division, but I do see the Colts. They invested a lot more in free agency than they did the previous year. I think they have the potential to get better. I think you add Cam Ward to this team because the Titans team because they weren't winning with Will Levis. And then the Jaguars added some key pieces like Travis Hunter. Maybe Trevor Lawrence is healthier this year. I think those teams have the ability to get the latter two teams, Titans and Jaguars, have the ability to get closer to 500. I think the Colts have a chance to improve upon their record last year too. So it'll be a little bit tighter, but I still think the Texans, as long as they stay healthy, are among the top teams and they are the top team in the AFC South.
So, Jonathan, I'll leave you with this. There's a 40-yard dash timer behind us here at our live setup for the show. What are you running in the 40 these days?
I think about 4.6, 4.7. I could get.
Ooh, wait, hold on. So you saying you out in the field? You saying you actually an athlete? I'm sorry, my boy.
He's leaving John McClain in the dust. With
right.
That.
I'm just checking.
They need to start thinking about putting me in the 30-plus Olympics if they have one. I could compete with the best.
Wow. Well, that's some cornerback confidence right there from Jonathan Alexander.
That's hilarious. Well, I love it, man. I love it. I'll see you soon down there in Houston, and you take care, my man.
All right, y'all too. Appreciate y'all.
Jonathan Alexander right there, Payless Liquors hotline. James, I think the schedule gods served the Colts well this year in regards to a couple things. I think it's a good thing. You see the Titans twice early in the year. Theoretically, Cam Ward will still be getting used to life in the NFL.
Yep.
And I think it's a good thing you don't see Houston till late for two reasons. One, I think the Lou Anarumo defense, by that point, post-Thanksgiving, could be a little bit more, in sync, cohesive, however you want to describe it. And by that point, what's C.J. Stroud looking like behind an offensive line that I think continues to have a lot of question marks? So AFC South scheduling gods, I think the Colts got some good news in regards to how the schedule's broken up.
Absolutely. I mean, we look at the way the season has ended the last few years, and honestly, the way it's started out, you're kind of behind the eight ball if you don't find your rhythm. And thinking about this quarterback competition, you want, if it is Daniel Jones, to be more comfortable in the offense. If it is Anthony Richardson, to have a chance to get his bearings after being shut down this spring, and perhaps that gives you some time to hit your stride later in the year because they've kind of been behind the eight ball at that time in the schedule. And honestly, either way, you got to win those games, but going into those final few weeks, if you know where you stand in the division, perhaps you can have a better understanding of how to finish it. Because in my opinion, sometimes the division was kind of decided by October 31st. In some cases, not saying it was fully decided, but there was a significant lead for the Texans.
Oh yeah, when you lost, what was it? Was it last year or the year before? But right before Halloween, it was over. More or less.
Exactly, yep.
Yep. And, again, the division got clinched with 3 weeks to go. That's pretty rare in the NFL, especially when your record isn't 12-4. Matthew in the YouTube chat asking when we will be out here, if we'll be out here next week. James, correct me if I'm wrong. We will do morning show again tomorrow and then Monday and Tuesday, and I believe that's it for us, right?
Yes, for the morning practices, that is it.
Because next Thursday is a night session.
Yes.
Like literally night practice, start time.
I believe it's 8 p.m.
o'clock, I want to say.
Yeah, I want to say Shane is scheduled to talk at 10 p.m.
By the way, I saw the Kentucky Oaks is going to be at night next year. The Kentucky Oaks is the Friday night of the Derby, for those unfamiliar. I wonder if that's a little test balloon to try and maybe get the Derby more in prime time. Post time is what, 6:50-ish, something like that? wonder if the Derby would ever go at night. I've been to night at the Downs at Kentucky, at Churchill
cool.
Downs. Awesome. Yeah, races from like 6 to 11 p.m. Great time. So, I don't know if that would help from a TV standpoint or anything. Obviously, we've talked a little bit about lights over at IMS a whole lot, but something to keep an eye on.
I've never had that
Churchill
experience,
Downs.
but I will say, when I was in college and I used to referee intramurals, I had a huge Asian population on campus, and they would rent out the gyms overnight and have like the Korean Association tournament or the Chinese Student Association would come out, and they would do these tournaments, and I was come ref from like 10 p.m. to like 2 or 3 a.m.
Man, are you getting overtime for that?
Yeah, I was getting. They paid great. They paid great. It was not the regular salary for an amateur referee, but I will say, Kevin, it was like going to a high school game because they would have their girlfriends with signs and their friends with signs. It was packed out, and
epic.
It was freaking loud. Rivalries, trophies. It was the whole nine. So it bringing back some memories there. It was a good time.
Love that. Training camp practice about to start when fans are trickling in. Matt Taylor's applying the 50 SPF. We are ready to go here. Day 2 from Colts training camp. Again, continuing to ramp things up. Sounds like full pads coming on Monday here. James, we went over the numbers a little bit earlier, but let's double back and go over them again. If you look at the raw numbers from Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson, 11 on 11 yesterday, you would say the edge to Daniel Jones.
Yes.
Contextually, what did your eyes tell you about the days of the Colts quarterbacks?
Contextually, I would say too many drops, especially when it comes to Anthony Richardson. He had 3 drops on some balls that should have been caught from Pittman, Doolin, and Jonathan Taylor. And then for Daniel Jones, I thought that he was obviously more efficient than Anthony Richardson, which is not surprising to me considering, 1, he's been healthier throughout the spring, and then 2, he's just a more efficient quarterback overall throughout his career. However, it was a lot of dink and dunks outside of, I thought, a beautiful pass down the sideline to Anthony Gould. But other than that, it wasn't like I walked away from yesterday thinking that one quarterback had just absolutely dominated the other or one quarterback was so much worse than the other either. It was, to me, 2 guys who, for the most part, throughout their careers, Kevin, have kind of shown themselves to be what we saw on that field yesterday.
Yeah, if you want to drink the glass half full, you would say, hey, yesterday was day 1 of training camp. There's rust. If you want to drink glass half empty, you would say, well, that looks like one of the worst passing offenses in the NFL. And, it did.
Yeah.
And again, you pointed out very accurately the pass catchers, 3 drops to Anthony Richardson specifically yesterday. And I just thought in general the 50-50 moments, you didn't win those at all if you're the offense yesterday. Again, the Anthony Richardson workload, I think it was interesting. Shane Steichen explaining this post-practice. It made a lot of sense, James, once he explained it. I'm out here watching practice unfold yesterday, and again, you begin with kind of the individual drills and those sorts of things, and you started to see Richardson's workload get scaled back. He didn't do as many of the individual throws as Daniel Jones or even Riley Leonard and Jason Bean. I thought to myself, oh boy, if he's scaling it back in individual periods, does that mean he's not even going to throw in the team periods? Team periods, when I say that, think 11 on 11, think offense versus defense. Then when they got to the team periods, though, he actually took more starting reps than Daniel Jones. Yes. And when Shane explained it after practice, he basically said the volume workload, when we use that phrase and we're going to scale it back for Richardson as he gets back to throwing full throttle, we're going to do that earlier in practice.
Right.
We want him to get as many team reps as we feel like is possible for his shoulder. And when Steichen said that, it made total sense to me. Those reps to me are beyond vital for the young quarterback. So, again, yesterday, technically, Richardson took more starting 11 on 11 reps than Jones.
How many, was it 1 or it was
there were 3 periods of starting 11 on 11 work. Richardson got 2 of them. Jones got 1 of them. And if you go off of that, again, just 1 period for Daniel Jones and 2 for Richardson, Richardson actually had the better completion percentage day, as weird as that sounds. So I hope we can do that daily, James. I hope we can provide the necessary context around it, that are a little further into it than just the raw numbers of the 2 quarterbacks, because I think a lot of that goes
and it is hard to contextualize it to a certain degree because you got to go situationally. What was the situation? How did that look like? And we'll get deeper into those things as camp goes on. But, again, I didn't walk away from some sweeping judgment of the quarterback competition. I thought that, the biggest takeaway was just the simple fact that they're going to be split pretty early on here, which in Anthony Richardson's case is probably the best case scenario because, if he had come into this camp, Kevin, to your point earlier about potentially being put behind the 8 ball a bit by not having it split early on or right out the gate, he could have been trying to make some ground up. So we'll see just how even it is throughout this training camp. And, of course, we got the Shane Steichen special, and every coach is special of I don't have a timeline for this. I don't have an answer for when we want a starter. Yes, you do. You just don't want to tell us, which is fine.
What do you think that is?
Week 2 preseason game or second preseason game.
So August 7th, 2 weeks from tonight, is the preseason opener in Baltimore. They will then return to Grand Park. They will have a joint practice 3 weeks from tonight with the Green Bay Packers. The second preseason game is then August 16th.
Yep.
Their final preseason game is the following week, the 23rd, in Cincinnati. There's no joint practice before the Cincinnati stuff. So,
but I think on the 16th, they want to know who a starter is. By the second preseason game, you want to know who your starter is.
And then you play that guy a full half on the 23rd in the final preseason game?
Yeah, I would probably play a full half, at least a full quarter. You have not earned the right to just do the Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, a couple of different series and you're done. No, you got to play.
We should
Mark, let's give away that.
We should do a how they people do the guess the due date for babies and everything like that, and you do like a wager. We should do guess when the Colts name their starting quarterback
right now.
We should do guess when the Colts name their starting quarterback.
This is why Mark is a great addition to the show.
Mark, honestly, we could probably guess Anthony Richardson's weight, like it's the baby's weight here.
Yeah. You want to give away some Indy 11
you said yesterday, James?
240.
Yeah, I do. I do want to give away some Indy 11 tickets.
240.
Let's give away a pair right now. Tulsa coming up. That's Saturday night, correct, Mark, over at Carroll Stadium?
Yes, sir. The USL Jägermeister Cup between FC Tulsa.
The Jägermeister Cup. Rick Venturi, the last time you've had Jaeger? Never. That's a good thing. Jaeger is disgusting. But shout out to the Jägermeister Cup, and thanks for the pair of tickets from Indy 11 here. We'll give that away right now. We are at the Indy 11 headquarters as they share it, of course, up here at Grand Park, and fans starting to descend upon Westfield, Indiana, as it looks to be a hot one coming up later today. Very grateful for the morning practice on this Thursday morning. 317-239-1070 as we give away Fast Fingers, the pair of tickets. Mark Dykton, let's go ahead and check it down.
The Morning Checkdown on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
James Boyd, let's begin inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse tonight. It is Fever. It is the Aces. On the disappointment scale, where would you put the Aces this year? Very similar record to the Fever.
Ooh, I will put it, if we're going on a scale of 1 to 10, my disappointment's probably maybe at like a 6 or 7 because they did make the big trade. They got rid of, Kelsey Plum. They brought in Jewel Lloyd, who is an Olympian, and, obviously another local-ish type of player. I believe she's from Illinois. But, again, I just think
played in Notre Dame. Come on now.
Well, I was thinking of my people, but I had honestly forgotten about that. But, yes, she is someone who I think you expected to have a bigger impact on that team, and that just hasn't happened so far. I think that Asia Wilson's played up to her standards because she's just a great player, but the rest of that group, maybe not so much, but a big one tonight because of the standings. The Aces are 1 game ahead of the Fever right now, and the top 8 teams make it. So the Aces are the 6th seed, and the Fever are the 7th seed.
Yeah, you'll get Jackie Young and you'll get Jewel Lloyd both in the building, so a couple Indiana connections on that, and, of course, Asia Wilson speaks for itself from a league-wide scale. They are a slight favorite over the Indiana Fever, who will be rocking the Stranger Things jerseys tonight inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Those jerseys look absolutely outstanding. Again, no Caitlin Clark, and I think it's probably fair to say Caitlin Clark will not play for the Fever the rest of July, so we'll see what happens here. Any updates on that from Stephanie White? Pre-game. Again, day 2 here at Colts training camp. I think you were under the assumption that Daniel Jones will kind of get a little bit more of the starting 11 on 11
Probably. I would think so. That's what Shane said. He wants it to be even, so as long as nobody has any hiccups with their health, yes, I expect it to flip-flop today with Daniel Jones getting the first team reps. But maybe he doesn't get the same level of fan reaction that we saw yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday.
That was a bit surprising to me.
It was an audible cheer on multiple occasions when Anthony Richardson came out for the 11-on-11 work. We'll have Latu scheduled guests to join us coming up tomorrow on the show. Major League Baseball from yesterday. The Reds win, the Cubs lose, the Cardinals lose. Joel A. Erickson, some Brewers win. Joel and I can chest bump when we see him.
So when Mark is not included in his chest bump? No?
I mean, he can, but he won't be celebrating Cubs W.
Mark is trying to get a winner, but I'm talking about wieners.
All right.
There you go, John.
I never remember you saying these things. Is this AI?
I think it is AI.
No, this is. I'm just
really
bringing audio to the forefront. That's all I'm doing. Nothing.
You're alone in studio. You're up to some shady bleep. I'm not buying that. I don't think I ever said that. Actually, that might have been around that wiener race.
I was gonna say, yeah, that might be real.
Now that my memory is starting to get jogged a little bit here.
She can still get it, right?
Who was that?
That was you talking about Mariah Carey.
Oh, she can, man. By the way, have you seen these J-Lo pictures lately?
Oh, my goodness.
Jeez.
Good Lord.
You want to talk about not safe for work. Oh, my gosh. Hide your children there. Laguna Seca for IndyCar here coming up this weekend. Pato Ward trying to go 3 straight weekends in victory lane. We'll see if he can add any drama here as we reach the end of the IndyCar season. And speaking of out west, out in Vegas, Barry Odom will take the mic today for the Purdue Boilermakers. And he will chat with the media as Big Ten Media Days come to an end out there at Mandalay Bay. And Purdue gets things started in Barry Odom's first season. We had Coach Odom on the show last Friday. Enjoyed that conversation. All right, upcoming, we'll get you set up here for day 2 of Colts training camp. It is myself, Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, and Mark Dykton back in studio. A steamy one, but Mother Nature looks like rain-wise will be holding off once again. Day 2 of Colts training camp practice right here in Westfield. Pascal Siakam on the pace car. As James Boyd eloquently said yesterday, that is spicy and sweet. Spicy P, of course, and the sweetness with the great old Cookie Monster. My dad can do a great Cookie Monster voice, by the way.
Does Max Bowen enjoy it?
Shout out to Brad Bowen. Max Bowen absolutely loves it, as much as he loves going potty on the toilet right now, which we got to be happy about. But most importantly, the Brickyard 400 coming up. Kyle Larson, your defending champ. We saw Chase Briscoe making the local rounds yesterday. He was on these very practiced fields. Meeting Anthony Richardson. I think his son loved meeting Blue. So some local angles. We heard Joey Logano on with John earlier this week. Talk about what it would mean to kiss the bricks over there at 16th and Georgetown. Again, on the Oval coming up Sunday, 2 o'clock. Brickyard 400.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Now, fans are alive and well. Shout out to Griffin and Trace, their father Denver. Just met them walking back from the bathroom. Are you do you say what's up to people at the urinal?
Well, it depends on how far away they are.
It was just me and one other guy, and I just said, hey, yo, and I got no response.
Well, I would hope that you have some type of, rapport. You're just talking to strangers in the bathroom?
Well, I said hi.
Well, that's fair. I'll probably say what's up. I think you're
weird.
And
I just got crickets.
Yeah,
Straight
well, no, I wouldn't do you like that.
I was texting Maddie for the first time back in the day.
You waited till day 20 here at Grand Park to whip that out.
Oh, Lord. I'll give a shout-out, too, as well. Another listener, Jim, from the region, he told me. He drove down with his son. They spent yesterday here.
Is that Chicago Colt? That's how he introduced himself to me on Twitter.
He told me, he's like, are you one of the few Sox fans on the show? And I was like, yeah, by default, I'm a Southside guy. So he's like, you're not talking about it on the show. And I was like, well, White Sox, they usually don't get talked about on the show for many reasons.
Man,
but
it's just such a shame. The one day I talk about the Reds, Mark all of a sudden, Mark has paid attention to nothing else during the show today besides pulling Kevin Bowen audio.
What are you talking about? I've been locked in. What are you talking about?
Just unbelievable.
You're not there to defend yourself in studio, so it is what it is.
Players starting to get on the practice field here at Grand Park. We are about a half hour away from the horn blowing and things officially starting. I know Matt Taylor will announce it to everybody on the PA here in a few minutes. I believe field 2 today for the offense-defense 11-on-11 stuff. So that would be the south of the two fields here.
Could you catch a punt?
At Grand Park.
No warm-up.
I'm watching some of these equipment guys try and catch it. I'd like to think I could, but, man, I really might be talking out of my ass.
Man, I feel like I would lose it in the sun, and it would just break my nose.
Well, and look at the trees, man. I mean, it's blowing. It's not like it. And are they catching from Rigoberto, or are they catching out of the jugs?
I can't tell. Either way, I'm not catching either one. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I know. I think that's a task that I don't know, looks a lot – I mean, there's another drop right there. Looks a lot easier than it is. Let's go back to, I think, the highlight of the day yesterday. And you mentioned – I'll go with the play highlight. You mentioned the player highlight. I'm going to go with Kenny Moore in that one-handed interception. So it's a 7-on-7 drill. And, James, when you get to 7-on-7 drills here in training camp, it's usually a highly efficient passing offense drill. Obviously, there's no pass rush. You got time in the pocket. And Daniel Jones patted that ball, and he tried to throw outside the numbers. And when you wait and you try to throw outside the numbers, it's probably not going to end well. Yeah. And Kenny Moore was the one that caught the one-handed interception, got the feet down before going out of bounds. I thought that was the individual. Outside of that Anthony Gould catch, great throw by Jones later on in practice to Gould over the shoulder, I thought that was the individual highlight yesterday.
Yeah, that was certainly, in my opinion, the play that stood out the most. And really, my thought was, dang, Kenny Moore made you really pay for that, because against another cornerback, perhaps not as skilled as him, you're not going to have that issue. Maybe it's just a pass breakup, but nevertheless, Kenny Moore gets the pick, gets the feed down and gets the crowd involved too. They're pretty hyped after that one. So that's not to say that Anthony Richardson didn't have some pick-worthy throws yesterday. I thought some guys actually just dropped them. Alex Johnson, one of the cornerbacks lower on the depth chart here, he had one over the middle from Anthony Richardson in 7-on-7. He just dropped. Anthony was late over the middle, and it was a clear pick. So those are some decision makers that I was talking about earlier, about how both quarterbacks, had some good moments and also had some not so good moments.
Boy, this sounds awful here. This news from Connor Hughes, who covers the Jets here. Justin Fields being carted off the field at training camp, suffered an injury to his leg at practice. The team ended that portion of practice after they're working special teams drills now. It's just kind of a reminder of, like, it's now real again. Like, the news items become real. I mean, I feel like we're pretty close to, like, didn't Samson Ebicom tear his Achilles, like, early on in one of these practices last year here? So, boy, other Jets quarterbacks, if this is a serious injury to Justin Fields, Tyrod Taylor. Boy, Tyrod Taylor's the new, like, McCown brother. 35 years old. What a great life as an NFL quarterback. Just cashing those checks.
And I actually think that he's like still a very good and feasible option for a backup quarterback.
I would agree. Brady Cook out of Missouri. Shout out to the Fighting Joel A. Ericksons there. Adrian Martinez. So a couple of actual notable names there. But
so do you call yourself a Fighting Hoosier? Or are you a Fighting Notre Dame?
No.
Or Fighting Irish?
Well, yeah, but I don't know why I say fighting so much.
I enjoy it. I was just questioning, hey, is it tied to where you went to school or where you're from? How does that work? Who you cheer for?
Well, yeah, I've always said this. Just because I wasn't smart enough nor financially secure enough to go to Notre Dame doesn't mean I'm going to stop cheering for them. What do you think? I just waste 18 years of fandom in my life? And all of a sudden I start cheering
I think you rock. I think you made the right choice.
Yeah, you have always supported me on that, which I do.
Yeah. At some point, real life kicks in. Money costs. I wanted to go to all these schools, and my parents were like, look at where you live. Pick one in state. And I was like, okay. That's how that worked. I would love to go to USC.
I think we'll be saying that to Rosie and Max and the baby here very shortly. Boy, you hate that for Justin Fields because, he was a name that we talked a lot about in January and February about,
Possibly.
He was one of the few that I think checked the box of viable starter, still young enough that you feel like could do something in this league. So I hope it's not serious with him. The Colts do not play the Jets for what it's worth this season.
That is disappointing. But, honestly, this time of year, you do want to keep an eye out on who is available, which is why I appreciate when Jake Arthur and Joel A. Erickson, ask me to use my binoculars to take attendance, because that is something we have to keep an eye on, Kevin. They don't give us – this isn't like during, preseason games or during the regular season where you get, like, the inactive list or who's in or out. We have to keep track of that ourselves, and if we don't keep track of it, guys can kind of slip through the cracks if they're not, big-name guys. So we definitely want to take attendance today just to make sure everyone available yesterday is available today, and then vice versa. If someone's out, want to take note of that.
And speaking of that, the Colts have announced a few veterans will not practice today. That list includes DeForest Buckner, Tyquan Lewis, Kenny Moore II, and Braden Smith. So all of those guys have been in the league since since 2017, 2018 for several of them. So few of those guys you will not see out there today as the Colts will get underway here coming up at 10 a.m. So, when you look at that, a guy like Braden Smith, for example, James, that is a big day for that swing tackle spot. That would be either Jalen Travis or that will be Blake Freeland. And that is a key position to watch. I know it's not, again, the most headlining position, and we won't talk about it a whole lot, but if and when Braden Smith has to miss time here in the regular season, that is an area that you're going to watch for.
Absolutely. And so, you did notice on that list of rest days there were no quarterbacks. So those guys got to get out there and show some things. I believe Matthew Stafford might have started off training camp for the Rams with the rest day, and no one's obviously freaking out there because he is the solidified, bona fide starter. But out here, no rest for the weary if you're a quarterback.
Yeah, so again, Buckner, Lewis, Braden Smith, Kenny Moore II there. I'll be curious just, again, cornerback-wise, we talked about the highlight of Kenny Moore. You mentioned this earlier from an individual player standpoint. The fact that Justin Wally was taking starting reps yesterday was something that caught your eye, and I couldn't agree more. There is a little part of me, James, that is curious how much of this is you're reintegrating Jalen Jones into things, you're reintegrating Juju Brents into things, because Chris Ballard did mention both of those names Tuesday when he met the media. He kind of called it a three-person competition, but nonetheless, it's not always a slam dunk that you see a third-round rookie getting starting reps on the first day of training camp, and that's what Justin Wally, the cornerback out of Minnesota, gave the Colts. All right, we'll do it one final time here from Colts training camp. This is the Fan Morning Show right here, 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, we're back one final time. James Boyd, I couldn't get the mic over the Gilligan hat.
Yeah, it's a little awkward fit. I have my bucket hat here as well, but I figured I would just wear it after the show because it doesn't really work with the headphones like a ball cap does.
Do I look like an idiot?
No. Don't talk to my friend like that, okay?
All right, thank you for that.
Be kinder to yourself.
I needed a little self-pick-me-up here before practice starts. 15 minutes away from that horn blowing. Again, fans starting to descend upon. I knew this would be the response when I tweeted out some of these players. Veteran rest day coming up for DeForest Buckner, Tyquan Lewis, Braden Smith, Kenny Moore II. James Boyd, how does that fall in line with the, hey, we want to be physical, more physical in training camp?
The best look, obviously, but of those guys on that list, I was thinking, who are you going to really say that they haven't necessarily earned that because they've been here for a while. They've all contributed in some capacity. And obviously, no one's going to say anything to DeForest Buckner or Kenny Moore because those guys are playmakers and have been playmakers for a long time. But, yeah, doesn't really align that well, Kevin. So if there is criticism from the fan base and our listeners, I think that's fair game.
Yeah, I get that. Those are also some very quality football players that have probably earned some of their stripes. And, you know, I'm going to look at it from what a huge day for Jalen Travis or Blake Freeland at right tackle. You know, Justin Wally and Jalen Jones and Juju Prince at corner. You know, Chris Ballard mentioned some of those defensive linemen. Maybe it's a little bit more of JT Tuimoloau and getting some work today. So I think you see this occasionally in the ramp-up period here to start training camp. But again, our expectation today is Daniel Jones will take a few more of those starting 11-on-11 reps. Anthony Richardson out-snapped Daniel yesterday. But again, the thought here is they will be as close to 50-50. And, you know, that's probably where I walk away with my biggest takeaway from yesterday. I don't want to make too much out of one day of a training camp practice, but the fact that they have a plan in place to give Richardson the team reps and not scaling back his volume and that makes complete sense to me. Now I think this competition can be real.
Right.
I guess is what I'm getting at. It probably took me too long in the show to get to that point, but hey, for those that are listening here late, that's where my takeaway would be. I do think the opportunity is there for this competition to be a little realer earlier in camp than I thought.
Do you dismiss the spring at all? Because when I followed up with Shane about that, he kind of gave a non-committal answer. But from your vantage point, Kevin, do you factor that into this competition?
Yeah, no, I don't dismiss the spring, to answer your question. And I guess let me be clear on what I'm trying to say here. I think Anthony's got some ground to make up, but I do think the fact that he participated as much as he did yesterday allows for him to be in a position to make that ground up. I was a little worried it might take a week.
Yeah.
And then that's when the calendar really starts to shrink. So, no, he's got ground to make up. I mean, if you believe Shane Steichen's words, what is the word he has used more than any other in describing what the winner of this battle will look like?
It starts with a C and ends with a Y, consistency.
Consistency, consistency, consistency. And sadly, the only thing consistent about Anthony Richardson has been his inconsistency.
Yeah.
So
unavailability, inaccuracy, things
exactly.
of that nature.
So
yes.
If you're going to believe that Shane Steichen word, then again, I still think Daniel Jones would, be that guy. But again, the fact that they were able to, have a 50-50 and, a little bit more for Richardson yesterday. And if you want to get technical, in the starting group, I would probably honestly give the slight edge to Richardson yesterday versus Daniel Jones's very limited work. We're going to chat with Latu after practice. We'll play that for you coming up on tomorrow's show. I think he is on the very important list of Colts players this season.
I have to check his hair. I didn't get a chance to look at him yesterday without the helmet. Still got the cheetah hair?
I was going to say, I would call it almost honey badger-like after that retirement. But, yeah, cheetah hair would probably be the better description for that. I did not get a glimpse of him without his helmet on yesterday.
Well, we'll get a good look today, and I do want to ask about that, among other things, because I do think if I had to pick one breakout player for this season to take that next jump for this team, it's him. I think he's poised for that opportunity with the revamped defense, with the departure of Dayo Dangbo. You're going to have much more snaps, and quite frankly, you were the first defensive player drafted 2 years ago, so you need to prove why you were taking that high.
If you have missed it, we touched on it yesterday, on the other segment. I should say the segment before this one. News out of Jets camp, various reports from their beat reporters on the ground there that Justin Fields was carted off with an apparent leg injury. I would caution just to say this, James, and even here at Colts camp, the Colts are probably, 500 yards, 1,000 yards from their indoor facility. Any injury here, you're likely to get carted all the way in. It's a long walk is what I'm getting at, all the way inside. So, when you hear the cart, that's not good. But, I don't know the severity on that. But nonetheless, that would be some awful news for a Jets team clearly trying to revive a position that has spurned them for years and years and years.
Absolutely.
They noted on the cart situation that he was fully on the cart. He wasn't like he was hanging his legs off the side, so it wasn't like he was just getting carted in because of the distance. It did seem like he was on the cart to
unable to walk.
Yes,
that's tough.
I mean, hell, you might get a point today where some guys might be carted in just for cramping. I assume this sort of weather is going to be at a lot of camps here around the U.S., so something to keep an eye on today.
Bananas. Mustard!
So you're saying not the donut that I ate earlier?
Donut might have hurt us, KB, so we start cramping up. We'll know why.
James, I think it's a big one tonight over at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. I don't want to overly put a lot of stock into a singular game in late July, but hear me out on this. After tonight, you go with 5 of your next 6 on the road.
Yeah.
Vegas is near you in the standings. And when you have home games without Caitlin Clark, I do think they are very important for you to try and get that in the win column. So not just because they're rocking Stranger Things jerseys tonight. I think it's a big one for the Fever.
Absolutely. I mean, this is an opportunity, like you said, to gain some ground in the standings and really to tread water because you don't know the status of Caitlin Clark. You don't know when she's going to be back. And as Kelsey Mitchell pointed out the other night, you can't feel sorry for yourselves, and no matter what happens, you got to stack wins. And the goal at this point in the season, I know coming into it, it was like, title contention and hit the ground running. You've kind of stumbled out of the gates. You're struggling to stay afloat, but just keep it within a striking distance of making the playoffs. That way, your goal at this point is for Caitlin to be healthy going into the most important time of the season, which would be obviously the last few games and hopefully a playoff bid.
You think anything lineup-wise they should shuffle right now? It's been Ari McDonald, right, as that point guard?
I kind of would stick with that because I thought that for a moment there, Stephanie White was kind of toggling a bit too much maybe, and I don't want to criticize her too much because of the injuries and things like that have kind of limited her ability to really evaluate her team. But at some point, even without Caitlin in the lineup, just stick with what you got. So roles are very developed and understood. That way, there's no confusion going forward later into the season about what am I exactly supposed to bring to this team.
Mike Chappell, eat that donut right there. Fluff Donuts here. Thank you to Carlton, our
Mike
listener.
Chappell turned down donuts. I feel like the hell is going to freeze over now.
Yeah, dropped them off
he
early
must saw
today.
lettuce in the box or something like that.
A wonderful donut. I think so far it was just you, me, and Phelan that have eaten the donut. Which
I'll go 2 for 2.
Probably isn't good for the old waistline here upcoming. Lee Arnold also, I think, consumed that donut as well. Again, Colts-wise, if you just joined us here, it will be a veteran rest day for a couple of notable Colts. That would be DeForest Buckner, Tyquan Lewis, Braden Smith, and Kenny Moore II. We are scheduled to have Laiatu Latu join us here after the show. And I think Jake is live here. Is that correct, Mark? Is Jake live here?
He is live. I don't know if he's going to be alive after this because he might melt into the sun with how hot the heat index is.
Yeah, that
103
he said
by Showtime.
Yeah, I looked it up today. At the end of practice this morning, it'll be about 95 degrees. The end of practice, this afternoon, if the Colts had an afternoon practice, it would be north of 100. Thank you to Scott Agnes. Thank you to Jonathan Alexander from the Houston Chronicle. Myself, Kevin Bowen, and James Boyd will be back one final time this week from Grand Park. Tomorrow, we'll have all your coverage right here on The Fan.